Good evening and welcome to The Real Study with your hosts, Mr. Snitbits,
Welcome back to A Real Study.
Black Girl Marvel,
But I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Mr. Marvelite,
not knowing anything about the film.
all the movie things,
And like I was locked in right away.
the pre-review with Super Gummy Guru,
Preview.
and me, the Real Study movie voice guy. Let's go to the poster wall.
I know, no pressure. Oh, no sounds. They're saying no audio.
No audio for me, must be. I bet you there's audio for you guys, though.
No, it's me. It was me.
It was you?
It was me.
Okay. It was me. No, Will is telling it's me. Okay, well, we'll roll with it. So this is week number 39, the final week of the season. So we will be moving on to season 2 in October. That said, we have an all Roger Deakins cinematography special tonight, and we have been looking forward to this episode. I know all the movie things is going to, have his mind blow up from this. But as you can see, Sir Roger Deakins is on our poster wall with 2 of his films, and I think Jurassic World is still up there. We may or may not cover that movie depending on how we feel.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, moving over to the drive-in, and yes, look at all those Roger Deakins emotes. Look at the emotes, and please do enjoy the emotes as you see them pop up. They're going to be fun. So, how are you guys doing? How you guys been for the last few weeks? I know we saw Black Girl Marvel last week on the Marvel episode, but all the movie things we haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Yeah, I've been good. Been like busy with work and stuff. So that's why I was gone last week. I was traveling. The beautiful San Jose.
San Jose, California?
Yeah. That's
Nice.
San Jose, Mexico.
Well, I mean, there was that option. You never know.
No. So yeah, San Jose, California. Yeah.
That's awesome.
For a quick jaunt down there. But yeah, glad to finally get to doing this one.
Yeah.
Since it's like about 75% of my content on TikTok.
Well, we're going to definitely focus in on a lot of that. So actually, I was hoping that maybe you'd be ready to maybe take the floor and kind of give us a lowdown of just Roger Deakins, what his work, kind of his career a little bit. You know a lot about him, so I figured you could just go for it. Hello, Lady Crossheart, and welcome. So yeah, I'll give you the floor. Tell us about Sir Roger Deakins and why you're healthily obsessed with him.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, not.
Is it healthy?
It hasn't become it hasn't become a problem yet. I should say that. Like it hasn't. Once it starts like
into your world in a way.
Yeah, once I started like not showing up for work and like those kind of things and not eating.
Hey man, you got any more Deakins? You got any more Deakins?
I need more. Roger. Yeah, it's funny like you mentioned that because like I've been trying to think too of like what it was and like what was the first movie that really like connected to me, but it was just one of those things where the more I got into cinematography, because really I wanted to do screenwriting when I first got involved with this kind of stuff, and I like finished all my screenwriting, and then as soon as I went to another film school and actually after I graduated I got more into like camera and lighting, just doing like basic interviews, and then when I got to my other film school, that's when it really became like this obsessive thing about cinematography, and I just dug everything in. So I think it was around then where I started like really paying more attention, and I'm pretty sure it was because of Coen Brothers films. I was really in love with Coen Brothers movies, and those were the ones that were really kind of like that it was just like things were real subtle. Like there's not a lot of crazy camera movement, like he doesn't move the camera unless like absolutely have to. Like he lets the like lets everything kind of play out in front of the camera as it should, and then they move the camera when it's absolutely necessary. I think one of his philosophies that I love is like which it kind of goes back to this whole like digital versus film thing, which I try not to get into because it's just like it's one of those things. It's really a moot kind of topic to really talk about because it's like it's just another avenue for storytelling for filmmaking, and that's all it is. But some people get really hung up on it. And I mean,
You don't
recently,
say. People hanging up and getting hung up on stuff. That's crazy.
yeah, no, like
Strong
with
opinions about
every little
movies.
thing
What
I
are
know
you
about
talking
like
about?
something like film versus digital, like, but like, and being like a camera guy myself, just being super into gadgets and cameras, um, yeah, you can get hung up on it really easily. But his thing was just like he wants an image to be as close to what we see with our own eyes, which means as clean and clear and as unobstructed as possible, without any like he hates lens flares. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like he doesn't want things to be grainy if he can avoid it. You know what I mean? Unless it's like again, it goes back to story. Like that's his whole thing is like if it is gonna serve the story, then let's figure out ways to do it. Like with 1917, they could have totally just done it a standard, like shoot, shot, reverse shot, all the kind of standards. Like let's do our mediums and our wides, and our close ups and our coverage, um, and just turned and like that movie would have been. It would have still looked gorgeous, but I don't think the impact it would have had for people watching it. I don't think it would have been the same. So that's why everything is like, trying to emulate the one long take thing, and um, but yeah, I think that's really what it is about Deakins. It's just his philosophy on things, on lighting, and just on cinematography in general. If he can make it, there's actually a thing I posted about. It was a when he was working on Wally, he was asked to consult on Wally, and he went in and did this whole like kind of workshop with them to help with the animators with lighting. And he lit the thing. He started lighting basically how he thought that they think he lights. So he did like this really overly complicated kind of setup just for like lighting like a bedroom scene or something. And it was kind of funny. He's like, you know what? He just turns around. There's like a grip or someone, a crew member's just like leaning kind of near a light. He's like, turn around. It like has all the cameras turn around, has everyone look at this guy. He's like, that's actually how I light. And the guy was just like, it was just really nice. And there's some nice light in the background, some like pools of light just naturally that were there.
Mhm.
And yeah, the guy looked great. You know what I mean? It was just like happenstance. You know what I mean? Like it was just like I he just like that's really more like what he likes. He doesn't like to use, but that's not to say like he doesn't use crazy setups. Like he'll use, I mean, like now you got me going on a rant here, but
That's what we
um
wanted. No, that's what we wanted.
but like in 1917 and in Skyfall, both of those films, he uses this huge panel of computer controlled lights, and they emulate fire, like huge wall of fire basically, and they're computer controlled, and they like kind of like pulse and flow and kind of emulate the way fire would like move as far as the light goes. And that's how he's able to like keep the fire kind of going without actually like using real fire. So, and in
Interesting.
1917 it was that near the end there when he's like running through that little town at night. And then at the end of Skyfall too, there was like Skyfall's on fire, and they're like running from to the other to that little other building across that field, and they use those giant panel lights. So he will totally use like a giant crazy setup, um,
But
but
only
yeah,
if it
just
lends to the story.
exactly, yeah. Like if you can, you know, help amplify things for the story, and yeah, I just love his stuff is just so
Just love him. We get
yeah, just buttery
it.
smooth stuff, man. It looks so. I mean, everyone
Yeah.
looks so great in his stuff. So
Even in his animated properties,
yeah,
he still
yeah.
makes
I
people
mean,
look amazing.
Rango was like, yeah. I
Right?
mean, we reviewed Rango. Yeah, like I looked at it a whole different light when I found out that it was, no pun intended, but
I was gonna say,
um,
I like that.
when I found out Deakins worked on it, and then it's like, okay, and like Wally to some extent too, which I always thought that film looked really gorgeous.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I love
So
one of my favorites.
yeah,
absolutely.
but yeah, hopefully that answered some of the stuff, but
Actually, it didn't. So
yeah.
So if you could keep going, just go ahead.
Okay,
and
cool.
kidding, of course.
Yeah.
So we have two movies,
Plus, like his voice, he's just got a real
right? No, for sure. He's British, right? So he does
right,
have
yeah,
the British
his
accent.
his wife is American, I believe, though.
Okay.
So, and she's kind of integral to his work as well. So James Deakins, they work together like hand in hand a lot together. So
Wait, his wife's
James-
name is James?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
His wife's name is
Okay.
James.
yeah, his wife's name is James.
That
And then they do the podcast together too.
oh wait, there's a Deakins podcast?
Yeah. So it's called Team Deakins podcast. It's really great. They stopped while he was filming Empire of Light, so they have some like there's a gap there basically. I don't know if he started it back up again, but I imagine that's what they're gonna do. There's probably some post stuff he has to do with the film, as far as like usually he'll a lot of DPs will work with like the color side of things, so they'll work with the colorist and stuff like that. So he may be doing that.
Okay.
But yeah, Team Deakins podcast, which is like there was a whole episode about his animated stuff, which I started digging into that before our animated episode that we did.
You put a little clip of that on TikTok, didn't you? Because I think I saw a little piece of that.
I think it wasn't from the podcast, but there was a specific thing from the Wally
Oh, that's right.
Blu-ray
That's
that
right.
he was like, yeah, because he did talk about that experience that you see in that video. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I do remember that
Yeah.
video. It stuck out to me
Yeah.
because they were showing all the lights he could use.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. His whole crazy setup.
Right.
And that's just not how he works.
So we're going to kind of attack both of these movies. And then as we're going, we're going to also cut out and talk about the cinematography within them. And then even how these two films kind of sit kind of very differently, because he approaches it very differently because of the medium, right? The black and white versus the color. And then, of course, you said film versus digital. But
yep. And we have a film versus digital
so the
situation here.
Right.
So, yeah.
So the first film, we'll just do a little bit of critical review on it like we normally do, is The Man Who Wasn't There, starring Billy Bob Thornton, as well as Frances McDermott, as well as James Gandolfini. I'm sorry, Frances McDormand. I always say that wrong. I always do that. And there are many other actors. Scarlett Johansson makes an appearance. Richard Jenkins, right? Tony Shalhoub playing the lawyer. John Polito, who is an interesting character. I always remember him from The Crow. He plays the like wild guy from, or the like leader-esque guy in The Crow. So this movie, Coen Brothers film, 2001. So it's been out over 20 years. I still don't feel like it was from 20 years ago. I think it still feels pretty modern, even though it's black and white, if that makes any sense. It still feels like a movie shot recently. But yeah.
Shot on film.
And shot on film. So there's that aspect. One of the last Coen Brothers films shot on film, I would assume, because most everybody's moved to digital these days.
Yeah,
just for
I
the
think
cost.
So yeah, and like that was one of the things that like was it Lala? It was you that shared that Quentin Tarantino thing with me.
Oh yeah.
Where I was like, oh, okay, Quentin Tarantino, Mr.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Does he still shoot on film?
Oh yeah, he's very much one of those film guys like Christopher Nolan, which is fine, whatever.
Right.
But when you start throwing slander to Roger Deakins, and also when you're not a DP yourself,
right?
It's like maybe you should stay in your lane. I mean, I don't know. I have my own things with Quentin Tarantino. I'm like, he's a fine director, right? He's got some great films, but I'm just like not all of like, especially when I was in film school, all the like younger guys were like just all about Quentin Tarantino, like he was a god, and I'm just like, that was kind of a red flag. But anyway,
okay,
yeah. I mean, he's a filmmaker, and he is a successful filmmaker,
right?
I think that's about all I can say. No, yeah. I don't have a problem with him, but I don't think he's that and a bag of chips. I think that his movies are fun, and I think his movies are worth looking at and worth watching.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I don't think that he's. I don't even think he's a Coen Brothers. Like I don't think he's at that level for me. That's just me. So
no, that's I would agree too. Like, and it's like it's great to shoot on film. That's if you can do it. And the thing was like Tarantino's perspective was that he thought Deakins was kind of lazy about it, and that's why he prefers digital. When it's like the light is light, it still needs to. And the thing is, like, it's not like Deakins has never shot on film.
Right.
I'm like, Deakins has been making movies longer than you have, my guy. Sorry, but like
longer than you've been alive, I would imagine.
I mean, so it's
But I'm confused though, because it's just one of those things where it's like, why does that bother you?
right.
And two, you put women's feet in your movies all the time. You know what I
So
mean?
you're
And I
immediately
understand
you're
I
And
just
he
feel like
finds
if that's the way you want to go, then like that's fine. But if Deacon's way that he wants to go is to shoot all digital or all whatever, like if that's his choice, like you shouldn't call somebody lazy for that, because there are names that people can call you for how you choose to do things.
So,
Yeah.
like, exactly.
Yeah, I agree
So
with
it was. I mean, of course, I'm biased a little bit, but still, I was like, oh man, like, and
Well,
like, So I don't know.
Lala and I are not Deakins stands like you are, and we're agreeing with you. So I don't think this is just a Deakins thing. Like I think it's I think there's another aspect here.
And like he has, and it goes back to his philosophy, the Deakins philosophy about trying to shoot. He wants to present things as much as close as possible to how we would see things with our own eyes.
How the human eye is. Which
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Yeah.
If I'm
So,
honest.
right. And to be honest too, like it is technically cheaper and faster, and there's just like, I mean,
you can just store it right away. You don't have to process it.
Yeah, you can watch the dailies right away. You don't have to send it to process, and so like, and so going back to like his thing about film too was like he would have such anxiety because it goes back to him being a perfectionist, really, more so than him being lazy. Like it's because he's such a perfectionist that he would have such anxiety about, shit, did I get it? Did I nail it? Did we get what we like? Are the images going to be exposed correctly? Like, and you wouldn't know, because you couldn't see exactly
because what he do can be affected on film. Like what he do can be, if he's like, this is how I want this scene to be like lit, shown, whatever. It can be, once you develop that, it could be, you could change his whole concept.
It can totally, it could totally come out wrong, and like, and so with like at least digital, you can send it to like monitors and stuff and see exactly, and you can even throw on like different looks and different color, because there's a thing called lookup tables, or LUTs that they call them, and you can throw on different looks that you want and actually color correct it right there, or color grade it and see what the grade is going to look like if you want to. Like that's just, I mean, plus then you get into visual effects. It's just easier with visual effects, so it's.
But I feel like that's why he's Roger Deakins, right? Like he's like, how can I save this production time and money, but still come out with something that's award-winning, nominated, or whatever.
Prettier than all Tarantino movies. Sorry.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying. So it's just like, like.
Oh, I know. I think I figured it out.
If I was hiring somebody to do my production, I would want somebody that will save me money, save me time, but still does a a job.
Tarantino's never gotten to work with Deakins. That's why he doesn't, appreciate what he does. That's what it is.
And like, I have this theory too. Like, I wonder if, like, I think Lala and I think we talked about this, where it's like, I wonder if they had some interaction where, like, he wanted to work with him, but Deakins wouldn't.
It's like, nah, I'm
like,
good.
I don't like this.
Yeah, it's not my style.
Exactly.
So, not to keep bringing him up, but it's the subject here. So, but Tarantino does have this kind of methodical approach to even his screenwriting. And I assume that his slow approach to everything is why he doesn't mind doing film, because he wants to do something, stop, think about it, go back to it. And that lends perfectly to film. You want to be able to take your time. And it's, maybe it's part of his method, but it also seems, it seems a little, it seems a little heavy handed. I don't know.
He's meticulous in a different way than like Deakins is, right? So I feel like he's meticulous in a way where he's like, okay, give me, everything we did point by point, shot by shot. Let me check this out, do this, like did it, go through it like this. Whereas Deakins is like he takes that approach on the set, right? He takes that approach like in the setting up of what he's doing. So when he takes when he takes that film, when he takes that like when it's digital, he can just be like, okay, this is literally what I had in my head here. Like I think he takes more time in his setup than he does in the editing part because that's still time and money too. Whereas Tarantino was like, let's get it, and then I'll figure it out once we get it all laid out, and then I'll piece it together.
Yeah.
You can kind of see that in his work. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
So,
And the thing too is like again, he's not a cinematographer, you know what I mean? So it's like I don't know. Like and my thing is just like, well, Deakins has shot film before too, so it's not like he's just acting like he's never shot film before. It's like the way it's was sounding in the interview. So, but anyway,
I'm pretty sure if you're not Robert Rodriguez, Tarantino doesn't like you. I think that's like a rule in Hollywood. But
honestly, he probably don't even like him. He just,
they managed to hit it off for long enough. I don't know. So anyway, so The Man Who Wasn't There. This film it's a whodunit. But not the whodunit part. There's definitely the like we're on the side of knowing everything while everybody else is trying to figure out whodunit, which I kind of like that approach. And it's definitely Coen brothers. You can feel the Coen brothers elements and just the way that they approach film.
I can't.
Go ahead.
I can't really put a label on it, but it's something about the Coen brothers like style that's I don't know why the word it's like fake, but it's real.
Right.
But it's
almost like absurdist.
Yeah, it's like
but it's also very grounded.
It's almost like puppetery. Like he's like, you do this and you go here and we do this, but it's like, yo, that was so good when he walked across the thing. You know what I mean? Like it seems I don't know. It's like staccato of a film, but it flows. It's just I can't like put a label on it, but it's like when I know I'm watching a Coen Brothers like production or film when it's just that it's something about their style that's very. I wish I could name it so it can be perfect, but I can't.
Totally.
It's Coen.
Yeah.
There you go. Just name it Coen. Yeah.
I mean, like The Big Lebowski is a really great example. That thing is just
that thing.
It's so. I mean, I love that movie so much.
I do too. It's one of their better ones.
Yeah.
Not that they have bad ones.
Well, and Fargo too is to some extent that way too, where it's like there's this terrible situation, and terrible things are happening, but then there's like you're just like finding these moments of humor, and it's just like absurd, just these situations where it's like, man, but yeah, there's definitely something about a Coen Brothers movie that they have this thing, yeah.
So,
not just Roger Deakins, but
right. So Lala, what is your initial impression of The Man Who Wasn't There? What do you?
Okay, so first thing I thought was, man, Scarlett Johansson's been sexualized her entire career. But anyway, I was just like,
I didn't see that coming.
I was like, yes, all right. When I saw her, I was like, oh, cool. And she's playing like a young girl that plays the piano. And then something Amy was like, are they gonna make her like him?
You could get that feeling, right?
She's like a young girl that's like, this old man is paying attention to her, but not in a way that you would think that he would. So it was just that was refreshing. But then to have her do what she did in the car, I was just like, oh no.
But I liked that he rejected her. He was like, no.
That ain't my bag. You know what I mean? Like that's not where I am. Like I appreciate that too, but I was just like, but part of me is like this: if you took that out of the movie, would the movie be any different?
Right. No.
Because even if you still needed a car crash, you could have figured out a different way to do a car crash.
Exactly. No,
an argument would have done it. They didn't have to have that in it, right?
Like they didn't have to. Like
you're right.
Didn't have to do that. Like they could have argued about about him thinking she has talent, and she's like, "See, I knew I didn't." It could have been something like that, but she physically didn't have to do that.
He could have dropped something like onto the car floor and like leaned down to get it.
Leaned down, or like maybe she did it and it like messed with him. Maybe he thought she was doing something. You know what I mean? Like, but did she literally have to be that character? But I was just like,
they could like allude to it, like
they could have,
and maybe he like is mistaking that she's trying to do something, but she's not really.
Which is not really, but like she didn't have to be that character. But I was just like, Jesus. But initial take is that it was a very interesting film. I didn't know anything about it when you guys gave the titles. Like this is what we're watching, and I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, I guess I'll figure it out. But I love that it's black and white. I love black and white things. I
Mhm.
love the pacing of this film. I think it's a very nice pace.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like at first I was like, oh man, I'm about to watch this movie. Like, am I about to watch this movie? And then it got it, it got into it, and I was like, huh. I sat up. I went, huh, that's the okay. Because he seems very bumbly, very uh um what's his name from um jeez, I'm blanking on things. He was with Mary Poppins in the Mary Poppins movie. What's his name?
Oh,
Oh, Dick Van Dyke.
Dick Van Dyke.
Dick
Yeah.
Van Dyke.
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton gave me very subdued Dick Van Dyke energy.
Yeah. He's like an
Um,
everyman kind of
he's like an
thing. Like,
everyman, like, but he's just like
yeah.
but he's just bad at stuff. It's just like, geez, man, like I just need you to be a better, just better in a sense. And it just seems his life was just like a big domino effect. It just kept.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just seemed like, but it also felt like he didn't care about life.
Oh yeah, no,
You
he
know what
was
I mean?
waiting to die. It felt like he was just kind of going through the
I
motions
think
through
he
his
was
whole
just like
life.
Right.
living to die. Like nothing that happened in his life seemed to affect him. I mean, but it did because of some of the actions that he made. But you just couldn't tell that it affected him. He was just like, oh man, like is she cheating?
Yeah. Well,
All
that's
right,
kind of
well,
like,
it's
and it's kind of
very
like what the title kind of alludes.
yeah.
You know, it's just like the man who
Because he
wasn't
never
there.
was. He just
It's
never.
like
We just
in like multiple aspects of
yeah,
his
and
life. You know, it's just like,
and I was
yeah,
just like, if Dick Van Dyke is on one side of the coin, Billy Bob Thornton's character is on the other side. Like, they're just two sides of the same coin, and it's just
yeah.
like.
Because
But
one's very,
I
yeah.
enjoyed the stylized version of like the stylization of every character. Every
Mhm.
character is very distinct.
Yeah.
If I didn't remember their names, I remember their character. Like I'd be like the dude who was like the lawyer
Mhm.
that just wanted your money. He didn't really care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
remember everyone because this has been like 3 weeks in the making of us doing this. I remember
Yeah.
the film. I went back and read like the Wikipedia
Oh,
and,
nice. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
reading the Wikipedia, my brain was like, oh yeah, that scene and that click and this person. It's
Mhm.
like it's very stylized to the point where like if you would have just like remember that scene with the thing, and I'm like, yeah, that's the one where Tony Shalhoub's character. But like I like films like that where the characters get stuck in my head and not like the actor.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Because most of the time I'm like, oh, Scarlett Johansson or da 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 da, but I can see her little curly hair character playing at the piano. Like
Yeah.
it's very stylized to me. So like for the most part, I enjoyed it. It was I like a good who done it. Um,
Yeah.
we know who did it, but we was like, wait, is anybody else gonna figure it out? So
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
that was
How is
fun
he
to
gonna,
watch.
or like, is he gonna get away with it, kind of thing
Hmm.
too? Like, yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't seem to
Spoilers.
care.
Sorry.
Yeah, spoiler alert, sorry. But he didn't seem to care. I think that's something I liked about him.
Right.
He took things as they came. You know what I mean? He was just like,
Mhm.
oh, I think she's okay. So this opportunity has come out. All right, well, I'll just get the money from the dude she's cheating from because I'm owed something, I guess. And he's very drawl. He's just very drawl, and I think
Oh yeah.
that made me laugh a little bit. Is that he's just like,
I
oh, I ain't
like
cheating.
I like
Like,
that about him though. I don't know. This was one of
you
the most
do. I like
compelling Billy Bob Thornton characters I've ever watched, and he did very little, like, which I like. There's one thing about his character that kind of resonated with me because I was a shoe salesman for a little while, and once you do something like that, much like cutting hair, you slowly start to get used to looking at things most people don't look at, like people's specific haircut. Or I used to look down at people's shoes and go, "Oh, you're wearing those shoes," because who looks at people's shoes unless they're like a shoe hound? But I noticed that about him. He was always just kind of looking at everybody's
watching.
haircut and just kind of seeing and taking it all in the whole film. Um, and
It
each
was
of
like
those
he knew
shots were
how they
slow and methodical in that way.
yeah.
And I like Deakins, of course, added that element where it's just you got to kind of sit in the scene with them and resonate with what maybe the co barber was just rambling on, and boy, he wouldn't shut up, and I like how he hired the new kid, and that kid also wouldn't shut up. It was like his plight to just listen to people rambling on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't know what to expect either. This was my first viewing of it. I've seen a lot of Coen's films, but this is one that I had just I don't know. I guess I'm just not the biggest Billy Bob Thornton fan, so I wasn't like, let me go watch this Billy Bob Thornton film. But he is good point, Aaron. He is perfect for some roles, and I think this role he nailed this role.
Yeah. Billy
Yeah.
Bob's not like one of the actors that I think I would put in like my top 10 or even top 20 if I'm being honest. Like he's not like my go-to, even though Sling Blade, I remember that as a child. I loved him in Sling Blade. But that's a deep cut for some people if they don't know what Sling Blade is. But he's one of those characters that like actors that like when it hits, you're like, man, they did a good job casting him because could nobody do what he did. You know what I mean? Like some roles that he's in, you're like, yeah, somebody can didn't need Billy Bob for that. But some other stuff, you're like, you needed Billy Bob for that.
Yeah.
And I really feel like this is
No,
one of those films. But speaking of Roger Deakins, because I didn't talk about Roger Deakins, I think the lighting in this was beautiful. Like I thought, like especially for a black and white film, where sometimes like lighting works better against color in some sense because it gives like a
So fun fact, this was shot in color.
Oh, nice. So they color corrected it to black and white
They
after.
went black and white in post. Yep.
Interesting.
It's crazy then. So like this was like really beautiful. I really liked like certain I love like the lighting. I love how like certain angles, certain shots. Like when it's like it seems like everybody got like a cue card like when they got introduced. You know how like back in the day, back in the day when somebody would just turn and and it just like frames their face. It seemed like it seemed like everybody had a
just about
thing
literally getting that. But no, totally. I can totally see that. Yeah.
So
That's
like
a good way.
I think I like
It's like they had
that
their own
element.
visual introduction.
Yeah,
You had a
like
moment to like take them in, and then no,
then they
totally.
moved
That's
on. So I
excellent.
love that. I love that aspect of it, and me just kind of like trying to learn more about cinematography and things like that. I'm like I'm seeing things differently now, watching things differently now, and like I've always been a person who's always been like I like the light. I like how that light come in. That's cool. Not knowing like
right. But like the thing is like we know what we like.
Yeah.
On some level, you know what I mean? Even if we can't explain it.
We just don't know like the terminology. We don't know like who's in control of that.
Or why we like it. Like
right. We just talk it up to like, man, that director killed that scene because the light came in and they got nothing to do with them.
Right.
Nothing to do with them. So like I watch stuff differently now. So like just seeing like how everybody got introduced, his characters, lighting. Not to say this, it was filmed and colored and corrected. That's pretty dope. That seems like a lot though. But that's
no, totally.
dope.
Yeah. Well, so the reason they do that is because some markets won't, they won't take it in color. They won't screen it if it's black and white, I guess. So,
interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's really
I like that.
What's really crazy?
What I read up on anyway. So
What's really crazy about a lot of black and white films that people don't really realize, especially if you go back to like Frankenstein or early black and white, is that the sets were not what you would expect. It's not going to be a black suit with a green skin.
Exactly.
Like they are wicked multicolored. I got to see a screenshot of Robert Pattinson in his outfit for The Lighthouse, and it's all like multicolored and whatnot in order to really bring out those tones in the black and white. And I love that about it. So that's interesting that they did it in color, but I'm assuming everybody was dressed not in bright pink. I'm assuming.
Right.
So I've been showing some of the screenshots from The Man Who Wasn't There as we've been talking.
Okay,
Lala was alluding to some of the shots, and I was like, these shots are kind of what she's talking about. So and we'll go back and discuss them a little bit, but
stuff in there.
Absolutely. So what about you, All the Movie Things? Was this your second, 10th viewing? Which one was this?
No, this was my first time viewing this.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. So what was
like,
your impression then?
I loved it. I mean, like it was I didn't know what to expect. Like I had thought it was gonna be like, I mean, well, it is very noir. It's a classic noir, but of course it's like a Coen twist, you know, like Coen Brothers twist. Like I was expecting to be more of like a mystery classic kind of whodunit kind of thing. But yeah, it was like this. Yeah, Billy Bob was perfect for it. And the funny thing is too, like he doesn't so he doesn't talk a lot, right? Like as far as like two other people, but then he's narrating like so we hear him talk a lot, but other people don't. You know, so I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's probably how he sounds in his head. He probably talks a lot in his head, but just doesn't. Because I would think every time we see him look at somebody or just stare or something like that, he has a name in his head.
Yep.
that's saying something about them, because I
Yeah.
felt like
He's
it
just
gets super
choosing not to say
loud
it though
from
out
like
loud.
the
But
haircut that they get and stuff. So
yeah.
I think that's how he, that's how I felt he did stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it was just yeah, and like Lala said, like there's just everyone's presented really well. I mean, and the thing is too, it's shot on film, and going not to like harp back on the Quentin Tarantino thing, but Quentin's thing was like, oh, he likes the texture of film and blah blah blah. And the thing is, like, we don't really see that texture in this. Like, there's not a lot of grain, there's not a lot of noise in the image. Like, it is clean.
Well,
I mean, it's
film
super
in
clean.
2001 or 2000, I guess 99, 2000
Yeah.
is much more refined. And
Right.
the film I shot on and you shot on, when we were younger, is still
Exactly.
more refined than the film they were shooting on in the 60s and 70s. So
Yeah.
you can see that in just the way the film or the photos come out over the years. So
Yeah, exactly.
the
And so
idea of
it's
film being grainy is,
yeah. One of the funny things too is like some people like want that grain in there, so they'll shoot it digitally, but then they'll put grain back in post, and it's never the same because it's like digital grain. It just looks like noise, like digital noise, like you
right.
didn't light it right properly or whatever. But it just goes back to Deakin's concept and philosophy of like, I want it to look as close to, what the human eye
yeah,
sees. Um, and so like, yeah, like just how clean everything is and just sharp everything is. I mean, um, yeah, I was just really blown away by like every single frame. Um, like Aina mentioned in the chat, it's like, um, where is it? She was like the composition in every scene and frame had her speeches, and I was just like, yeah, it's like I would hang some of those shots in my home,
Mhm.
yeah,
and
yeah.
Oh, by the way, if you
so
don't already follow all the movie things on Twitter, he does do a Deakins shot of the day, so you can go see these beautiful shots all the time if you
yeah,
want to. Just
yeah.
thought I'd plug you while we were at it.
Thanks.
So here's
Um,
another screenshot. Actually, this is the one of him of Ed walking down the hallway that we were mentioning before the show, and this is actually kind of a contrast between the out of focus background with the light, and then Billy Bob covering the light as he comes up, so you still get nothing but a silhouette
yeah,
with the character. And this is indicative of the whole film is kind of like this, and you're not wrong. It's beautiful.
yeah.
So yeah,
And
I
this
would
is like
agree.
a thing. I've kind of like, I'm sure he would never say this, but like that he has a signature thing, or whatever. But he is so like one of the things that I was learning and like afraid to do, like when I was learning cinematography early on, was like, oh, you don't want like I was so afraid to let people go into shadow or go into silhouette because we want the viewer to see them, as much as possible, kind of thing. Um, and like he does it all the time. Like I swear, every movie he's got great silhouetted shots, and it's just like, and you can see who it is. You know which
Yeah.
character it is when they're silhouetted. You don't
I
really
mean,
need to like,
every artist signs their work some way, and he might
Mhm.
sign
yeah.
his
I feel
like a
like that's
silhouette.
yeah,
That's his signature.
yeah. He's not afraid to let things go into silhouette. And some of my favorite stuff is just like, there's so many like shots that I've seen that I've picked out that I love of his that are just like silhouettes. I mean, there's a great like the opening of Skyfall was great. Like it's similar to that shot. Actually, it's just like shot down a hallway. There's like a light, some image at the end of the hallway, like a window, and if someone comes in the frame and we see a silhouette, and immediately you know exactly who it is already. Like
Hmm.
it's Bond, and then the silhouette starts coming towards camera, and then there's like a light. Like he walks into a close up, and the light reveals his face. Like, oh yes, and confirms that yeah, it's Bond. It's just I mean, just such a great way to you know introduce your main character in the first few seconds. It is so good,
Yeah.
but he does that a lot.
I agree. There's a shot from the next movie that you and I both picked for tonight
Yeah,
that is silhouetted because
another
of the same
silhouette. Yeah.
thing. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm with you. You're making me become a more and more of a Deacon stan. It's funny because we both have Letterbox. I think all three of us have Letterbox. If you guys are not following
Yeah.
us on Letterbox, please do. If you like following all the movies you've done and what your friends have done, it's worth doing.
Yeah.
Letterbox, please notice us. That
If you don't,
said, it would be. That said, one of the things that's really cool about Letterboxd is the intricacy in which you can look at your viewing history. And one of the things you can do is go by cinematographer. And after talking to Brian about that several times, even months ago, I went and looked, and Roger Deakins is in my top 5 of viewed,
Right.
cinematographers.
That's
So I was
funny.
like, oh, I didn't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
know that, but wow, I really do like him without even knowing I did. So you might be surprised what he's done, because he's got a pretty interesting
Yeah.
set of films. So.
Yeah.
One
Like
day,
his,
can we all do that? Because I can do that too. Brian, can you do
yeah.
that?
Mhm.
Well, one day we should all find get our top 5, not Deakins. I love him, but not Deakins. Get
Yeah.
our top 5 cinematographers and pick one movie.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
And we should review
Because
it if
there's
we
like
haven't
so
already.
many. Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
I agree.
I think that'll be fun because
Yeah.
I didn't going through it. I was like, I think I'm a child. I have a lot of like a lot of my favorite things are very animated. I was like,
Yeah. That's
I'm a
great.
child. I was like, that's great. I was like, I love it. No, I don't care. But I was just
Yeah.
like, it just made me laugh, and I was just like, because I was looking at some other people was there like, oh, my top, like Scorsese is in my directors and this, and
Yeah.
I'm nowhere near that. I was like, that.
The funny thing though is like I'm blown away by animation. Like even like so Bambi recently had its anniversary,
Mhm.
and that film has some when it came out too. I'm just like it just blows my mind what
Yeah,
they're able to accomplish back then. Like that thing, like they're able to like imitate parallax of a of a camera of a lens, and like what we see is parallax, where it's like they have to like imitate that somehow. So they had all these layers, and matte paintings and everything that they had to do to like invoke parallax as the camera's like dollying, from one side to the next to reveal
yeah.
like the forest and everything. It's like, man,
Think about Lion King when they're
oh
about to
man,
lift Simba and the camera like turns
yeah,
in
they
the
do that.
front.
Yeah.
That it
They do
goes
that
from like the side
360.
and then it goes up to face. Like that was
Mhm.
that's like 93, 94, and you're like, but
Yeah,
they probably made that in like 1991 or two,
no,
and you're
exactly,
like,
right.
wait a
Mhm.
second.
Mhm.
It's like,
So good.
and it's clean too. It's like
Yeah,
Deakins, are you there? Like it's
yeah,
like,
Now,
yeah,
yeah.
it's amazing.
Black Girl Marvel, on a note, you did jump into one of my TikToks about the 25 films list, which is, I think that all the movie things had said like 22 or 23 on that list.
Oh yeah.
And Lala said 7, which no judgment, no judgment. But that means
Funny.
that there are now 20 films roughly that I absolutely think you need to watch. And they're on a list
Yeah.
already. I've written them down, and I'll be
Mhm.
bringing
I'm here
those
for
as
it, man.
much as possible. And I think you would enjoy most of those films. Maybe not every
Because
one
my
of them,
thing,
but I think you
my
would.
thing is, I do like to call myself like a film connoisseur, but I don't. I can't possibly have seen everything.
No,
Can't
I
possibly
mean,
have.
there's
You know what
so
I'm
many
saying?
things I
Dug into
haven't seen.
anything. I have a lot of films. I have a lot of knowledge of a lot of things, and I don't have knowledge of the things I don't. So like when you guys bring up films, kind of like the man that never was, or I can never get
No, I was
this
never
title
there.
right.
Yeah,
There, I can never
yeah,
get this title correct.
yeah. I know. It's like, yeah.
Like I never can. Like I've been messing up this whole time. I just be like, I'm sorry. I just be yelling at people, just saying I'm sorry. It's just like,
Mhm.
but I like getting films that I've never even heard of or seen before. And sometimes I'm like, oh man, I gotta watch this movie. And then I'm like, oh
No,
man,
totally. Yeah, because you're
like,
just
oh
like,
man, I watched this movie. Like,
yeah.
and then if it's not a good movie, I'm like, what did you
At
guys
least you
put me
watched it.
through?
Like,
But at least I watched this. Another movie I
yeah,
got out of my docket, something else that I have seen. So like,
yeah,
bring them on, Snitty.
I
Bring all your
feel
films.
yeah.
I feel like there's no movie I could go wrong with anymore, since I did have to endure Robin Hood 2018. So I'm just
That's hilarious.
saying. If you
We should
guys
have
haven't watched that, don't. Anyway, sorry.
whenever our anniversary is, like our 1 year. Well, next year will be 1 year, right? Or 2 years.
So technically, September 12th will be the Real Study 1 year anniversary, but we're going to start in October just so that we can take a break and I can get everything ready. But yeah, so this is kind of our, between this episode and the next episode is our 1 year anniversary. So we're kind of there right now. We were all doing a show called The Real Triad review last
That's true.
right
That's
this
hilarious.
year, all even
Forgot about
because
the
even
Real
Brian was on
Triad.
the show. So this is still
Yeah.
kind of our 1 year today, really, honestly. If you were going to
That's
look
hilarious.
at it. So anyway.
Okay, so like I'll say like okay, when we come back, maybe for season 2, we could do that where we can put together like our old movies and things, and then let our real students in the Discord vote on like these three, like
Oh,
three of
funny.
them that we should probably watch again,
Mm,
and see
okay.
and see if our ratings changed or see if like maybe we
Oh
feel
yeah,
different about it because we've seen a lot of stuff throughout the year.
yeah.
You never
Just
know.
please not repo the.
Or
Please
Robin
not
Hood.
that.
Neither of those, please.
Please.
And wife, Batsy, I'm
I'm telling you
sorry.
right now, that's not gonna change.
I love you. I know you love Repo, but I'm with all the movie things on this thing. I will never watch it again.
And I always say this for the real study. Even if you recommend something, we can veto that recommendation depending on if that it might trigger some people or some people might not,
True. Right.
or like it might not like it or however it is. However it is, we can veto things and we'll give you points back and you can do it again.
But if we don't have a good reason to veto it, then
But we have a reason to veto it only because we don't like it.
Just
But again,
cause. Oh.
yeah,
because it's crazy, but we can veto. But I would just say like I think people will vote for like maybe if we did like however many people did it, like just we could just sift through them and just pick three or and and say where the three came from, or they can come from three different people. You know what I mean? I think it'll just be fun to see. How about The Room? Yeah, I think she's heard that somebody recommended that to her because I don't think Aina did not like The Room. I've never seen it, so
I love that movie. I'm telling you, you got to see it in person. You guys,
It's much like watching Rocky Horror Picture Show. You should watch it in theaters. I get that. I've definitely understood that now.
Like watching it by yourself is like I mean, it's kind of a slog. I did see it like by myself for the first time.
I mean, I will be at the theaters by myself. Nobody comes to the movies with me.
Mm-hmm. Well, if Michigan's a bit far, I would just come on over and we could go to the movies. So
I appreciate it, guys.
I can't even go watch movies with all the movie things, and he's just right up the road. So, so yeah.
I'm just curious. Do you think you'll ever get to a place where you're comfortable to go back to the theater?
Yes. Oh no. Yeah. So no. Soon, actually. We're in the process of getting that all done, and we'll be back out there. And I'm gonna go get myself not a movie pass, but a Regal pass. That's what I'm gonna be doing.
There you go.
Okay.
So
cool. I was just curious. I didn't want to make this a thing.
Oh yeah.
Judging.
No. Yeah. And Regal notice us anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that I think all the movie things got us all tagged in that the other day. It was really nice of you to tag everybody in that.
It was nice. Yeah, I just started tagging. I think and then it turned into a thing where we all just started tagging each other.
I know.
Well, that's how they'll notice us. They'll see why are all these names keep popping up.
The person you tagged ended up tagging like 5 or 6 or 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I was like, that's it. We're a pretty good community, man. We were just like
that was the day I had the most Twitter announcement or the most Twitter
notifications.
Yeah. I haven't been on Twitter until recently. I mean, I guess a little here and there, but so they still have some classic tropes within this film, but I think the Coens are really good at trying to subvert tropes because if we'll use The Big Lebowski as a great example. It's a noir film, but shot in color and about a stoner. So like, it's not your typical noir film, but it has all the noir tropes kind of laid throughout. This one is a noir film, but I wouldn't say that it's laced with a ton of noir tropes. I would say that it's...
I think that's why it surprised me too, because I was fully expecting it to be that. I mean, just from the look alone and like the man who wasn't there, even the title, was just like very long kind of like, and there's similar other noir films that have very similar titles, that are like straight up just noir.
I just feel like it was too funny to be like a classic, like noir.
Right. No,
because I was just like, I got it in the sense of like the black and whiteness of it, the voiceover aspect of it. That's very noir. You know what I mean? That's everything. Even the lighting and the setting up of shots and like the stylized entrances of people and like things like that. But it was just comedic. It was like very funny, and I was just like, this isn't standard, but I enjoy it. So
yeah.
I think Shaloub stands out as a character that I really enjoyed because that's not his typical. He's a little bit more reserved in most of his roles, but in this one, he's like really kind of in everybody's face and like very matter of fact about the way he approaches things. He's like, this will work, this won't work. So I really like that.
Very quirky to me.
Quirky, that's a good word.
I love him.
In a way, but to me, I felt like he was quirky in like a very like condescending kind of mean type of way, but I always felt like Tony Shalhoub in some way plays a quirky character.
Oh yeah. He's always got some kind of thing.
He's always a little off kilter in some way, and I actually enjoy that about his performance because I feel like he still brings a nuance to a quirky person.
Agreed.
No, totally. Yeah, because they're all different. Like all his.
They're all different, but they're like the common thread is it's quirky. But
I mean, even going back to like Wings when he's in Wings.
Like he was the weird guy in Wings, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's because to me it's not the same as like The Rock, right? The Rock to me plays the same person and everything. Even if he's like even if it's comedic,
even as Superdog, he's the same guy.
He's the same person, right? But Tony Shalhoub isn't the same person, but they all quirky, right? But it's
Yeah.
like all different. Like if quirky was like a tree, it was like so many different roots of being. There's so many ways you can be quirky, and I think that's Tony Shalhoub Coker. That's how he shows
So
us.
there's one role where Shalhoub actually plays a regular guy, and that's in a movie with Matthew Lillard. So he had to be quirky, kind of as a rule. You can't take that away from
Right.
Lillard.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
13 Ghosts, and he just plays a regular dad.
Oh,
Very normal dude in that movie, which was weird
yeah.
because that's not what you
Yeah.
expect from him. So it
Yeah,
was very
that's funny.
out of the norm. James Gandolfini, you know, rest in peace. Love seeing him and everything.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool.
I liked, you know, that I knew that you know, a letter opener of his, or I guess knife from World War II, it just felt like a letter opener,
Yeah.
was gonna be, whenever they show that in a movie, it's obvious, you know, if you
Yeah.
don't follow through,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that would be weird. But
Yeah.
but I just love seeing the actress they chose, Frances McDormand. The Coens
I
can't
mean-
make a movie without considering her, so
Without his wife. So
right, it's just kind of the way it
I
is.
feel like that's gonna be like the Daniels now with Michelle Yeoh. It's like, yeah, you
That's
gonna pick
okay.
her, right?
That's okay.
Pick
oh
her
yeah,
for the best.
I'm fine with that.
Oh,
And,
I'm cool with that
and
too.
they can
Man.
make whatever
yeah.
they want. They're the next Coens in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
in so many ways. So the end of this film, we're going to get into heavy spoiler territory here.
Oh my gosh, the end of
But the end, which I love movies that allow you to hear a narrator who may or may not be alive, depending on what, because we're seeing the story unfold. But if he's narrating it, it's after the fact, so
Yeah.
it's like he's narrating it from that moment. But
Yeah,
but
it's like
even
the
in
whole
that,
story he's been telling from some other like plane of existence,
Right,
basically. You know,
right.
it's like
But
yeah.
even in that moment, he still checked out everybody's haircuts, which I thought was
Yeah.
that really stuck out to me, and I liked that
Yeah.
he was just like, yeah. Instead of final words, it was final. Yeah, he could use a little trim here.
Yeah.
He needs
You know the thing I like
That's
though,
what he was
I
good at.
I like the fact that like normally when you have somebody that's narrating something, you're like, oh, they make it because you know they're narrating. Like Smitty said, they make it. For me, because even though we know that he like dies at the end, spoiler alert, like
Mhm.
I took it because he wrote into a magazine. I took it as though like somebody reading it in his voice in a
Oh
sense, like
yeah.
that
That's
too,
a good point
like
too. Like
somebody reading in his voice,
yeah,
or
the
like
whole
maybe
article was
yeah, or maybe like Frank was
a
reading, and you know
movie.
Frank
Yeah.
knows like you know
Right.
Frank. But I kind of looked at it
Yeah.
that way too, though. Like
Yeah.
it's because sometimes when you read somebody's work, you kind of read it as them. You kind of read it in their
hmm
voice,
hmm
and so it could easily be somebody reading. It could be both. I'm not saying
no,
Right.
yeah, no, yeah. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it.
yeah. No, totally. I
that's
didn't
just
think
kind of
about
how like
that.
my brain kind of went. You know.
But since it is
I
narrated in
like
his
that.
voice, you're right that it could be somebody reading it in his voice. But if it's just out of a magazine, if like I picked up that magazine and I'd never met Ed, then I wouldn't have a voice. So I would just be reading it in my own voice or a made up
Yeah.
voice. So
Right.
it's a little bit of both. And I like that you brought that up because it is
I mean, I generally read
kind of
most
ambiguous.
articles as Billy Bob Thornton anyway, so it just worked for me.
Do you read
But
like stereo instructions like Billy Bob as well?
yeah, right. Yeah,
yeah.
it just helps.
I do
Like,
the same thing,
I'm a
but it's
slow
Billy
reader.
Bob. It's Billy Bob is Sling Blade, so that's
Read
very
it. It's
I
like,
love that.
oh man.
Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about these some of these shots if we
Yeah.
could. I'm gonna pull up the one of the cell, and let me see. What am I doing here? I'm pulling the one of the cell, and I would love you to just kind of describe why Deakins would go with this, because this kind of goes back to what you were saying, where he loves to show very little. There's a lot of light here, and we see a lot of, we see those God rays, if you will. But that's about it. Everybody
Yeah.
else is obscured, and you've got the prisoner,
so
Francis McDormand is there, and you've got Billy Bob
Yeah.
just kind of looking out the window. And I love this shot. This shot really stood out to me in the film as I was going through it, and I was like, oh, I got to bring that one up because of it. But yeah, go ahead and tell us what you think.
Man, put me on the spot.
I
Let's
love
see.
it. Yes.
Being in the well, again, we got some silhouetting going on, but also the thing is too, like you can still see everyone. Like Francis McDormand is like edged right there from that
Yeah.
single light still, and you can still see like I imagine the light is bouncing off of the floor there, and we're still getting some light on the gentleman against the wall there. So we can still see him, but really I think this is and this just goes back to like, okay, this is a noir film. We want to keep it in that look. And this is like one of the most noir shots in the movie. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so like there's even a lot of like um what do we call it? Environment. So a lot of times you can throw in like a smoke machine or like spray, which the spray stuff isn't that great. It doesn't last very long. But you call it like environment or fog or whatever. And so you can see that in there, and that just helps with the light, with the shafts of light. Um and yeah, I'm not really sure like what else to like kind of go
Yeah,
into
yeah,
about
yeah.
this
Here,
one.
I'll
But
bring up this other one here. This is the outdoor shot where he's got his
mhm,
shadow cast, and this is just a couple of shots. The whole movie has a
yeah,
lot
look
of
at that. That's
this
so
feeling,
good. Yeah.
but it's again, we know it's Billy Bob
Yeah.
because of the scene that we're in, but at the same
Hmm.
time, we've got this long shadow coming off of him that
Yeah.
maybe speaks to how he's feeling in the moment or kind of what he's
Yeah, exactly.
experiencing.
One like he's isolated, right?
Hmm.
You know, um and we're kind of like and we're kind of far away from him too. So we want to like basically that wider shot, we want to feel that more isolated kind of um emotion there.
Hmm.
And really like it's great too with this like long shadow, you know what I mean, where it just makes him looks even smaller, like he's framed in the doorway there, and then with this long shadow that helps, like he just looks so small,
He
you know what I
does.
mean, and like I feel like that's I can't remember what part this is in the film right now,
Well,
but
what I find fascinating about this and other shots is look at how much black is in the shot. Like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
almost like 50% of this frame has just pure blackness in it, and
yeah, yeah,
there's nothing
and
to
you
be
got
seen.
and you got some light in the windows too to help
Right.
fill some of that, you know. um,
A little up in the
That's
top right hand corner and the light pole a little
yeah,
bit, but that's
exactly.
about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, it's
yeah,
pretty wild.
yeah. And
Yeah,
just
no,
like
yeah.
the way the stairs are too, it really just helps. I mean, it is almost like a painting. I mean, like
Mhm. Yeah.
Agreed.
so
He
good.
does seem to paint with light, and that is definitely
Yeah,
something he does a
that's
good job with. So
yeah.
he's better than me. Look at how washed out I am. This is terrible.
I feel
Um,
like I feel like the way I look at cinematography is the same way like I feel like I look at actors in a scene because
Hmm.
actors say the words for you to understand what's going on, for you to feel what's going on. I feel like cinematographers set up the scene so that the words match what is going on. So they all
Right.
work in concordance with each other. So I kind of look at
Oh yeah.
cinematography as speaking in its own way. It's just not verbal. It's just with like imaging and light and angles and things like that. And
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
it's another way to inform a scene, another way to inform a film. Because sometimes you can't tell. You can be like, that was okay, but like I like the words, but something was wrong with it. And sometimes it could be the cinematography. Sometimes it could be like they didn't like
Yeah.
the scene right for you to kind of convey what the scene was doing. And
Yeah.
if they don't link up in a way, it's
No,
it's kind of
that's the amazing thing that I love about like filmmaking just alone, just is like it takes so many damn people
bad.
to
Mhm.
have all these separate disciplines come together and like be in sync. Like
Yeah.
every
Hmm.
single take, you got to be on it. You know what I mean? And like it just blows my mind. Like when and like especially when like an actor is really like giving such a, like a heavy performance or something. It's not something they can do repeatedly, right? And everyone's kind of like holding their breath, and and when everyone just like the camera moves the way it's supposed to go, you know, like everything's quiet on the outside because there's also like so like on set you got still people running around like doing their stuff while we're rolling, and people are still quiet, but still like as a PA too, you have to kind of like monitor that a little bit and make sure people are, you know, because you'd be surprised what noise can be picked up. But there's still people doing other jobs while you're rolling, so it's like
Right.
you got to make sure that's still going on. It just blows my mind. Like that. I mean, I just love it so much when
were quiet
you
shoes a big thing on set?
you know not really like you everyone. I mean, everyone wore like comfortable shoes because you're like on your feet all day, so they're not really loud anyway. Um, but like if you're on the actual like where you're shooting, you know, it depend on what you're shooting, of course. But But yeah, like you could, if you were gonna walk closer to the actual set, then you kind of had to like walk gingerly and not really speak or anything like that. So, but that's where like you have like a perimeter of like PAs basically, kind of like forming around where we were shooting. And when you're on location, it's a lot harder because then you have like strangers that are just like
Yeah.
passerbys. Like I can't tell me people that have just like said, "Nah, screw you, buddy. I'm going. I have to go this way. I'm just gonna walk right through your set."
But that
And
has
then there's
made
like
for some
nothing you can
great
do.
moments in cinema. I'm walking
Totally.
here.
Yeah.
That's a real moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like those kind of. Yeah. Exactly. Like that cab just didn't care. Just
Right.
going through this. Like.
Now I can imagine that going on location, that means the sound department's just ready to pull their hair out because that's their,
Oh yeah, that's where like miking them is so important. Like
Right.
you have to
Yeah.
actually mic them, and hiding in the pack becomes like a little puzzle. But you still try to boom it, and you still try to get dual audio as
Right.
much as possible. But
then you can cut what you need to in and
yeah, and you mix it. You mix the two together to sound really great. Because to be honest, the little mic that they're mic'd with, isn't always the best. Like that's why the dual audio is always the best. Because I love the sound of a good boom. I don't know why. I just love the way a boom mic captures voices, but a lot of times you can get more environment around you too. So the mix of the two is really the most ideal. But anyway, yeah, I just love that. And then the thing is too, like one of the things I wanted to bring up here was that I thought about doing a video about too as well, was just like the cinematographer gets a lot of the credit, right, for like how gorgeous the shot is, but there's this incredible team of people behind all that too. Like when you see all those credits, when you see like all the grips and all the
Mhm.
grip and lighting and the camera department and all those assistant, all those ACs, those first ACs and second ACs, the best boy, the gaffer, all those guys, all those men and women, all those people are working behind the cinematographer. Like all that is for the cinematographer. Like all the grips are like making and rigging stuff for camera, and it's just like an insane amount of people required to like just for the cinematography.
and that's like rigging the lighting and rigging the cameras and rigging
Yep.
the whatever's needed, right?
Yeah.
That's their job, is to do it all.
Yeah.
That's a wild job.
Yeah.
But also fun. Oh yeah.
Oh,
I did hydrate, so
know.
oh wait, I guess I have to do it again. Sorry.
I already did.
Thank you, Aina, for that. So we do have another film, and of course, lots more Deakins to talk about. And we've been minus Sean for the summer just due to his life stuff, and that's okay because we miss him, but life does have to come first. But why don't we rate this film, and then we'll move on to Sicario, which I think is going to not only continue the cinematography discussion, but I think on its face, it's gonna bring up some pretty interesting topics besides that, just due to the topic of the film. So all the movie things, give us your rating of The Man Who Wasn't There.
Yeah. I give this one an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Especially like when I think the thing why I enjoyed it more too was the fact that we were going to talk about it from this perspective too. So I was really just like digging into it. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh yeah, okay. And really paying attention to it more. And like I dug more into it, like, like I didn't know that they shot it in color. And then, so there's like just fun little things like that. So it did make me enjoy it more. As far as like the rest of the Coen brothers films, it's not my favorite. I would say there's definitely like a few more above it for sure. But this was, for my first time watching it was great.
Awesome. What about you, Black Girl Marble?
I will second that. I'll give this a solid 8. It is a solid 8. Again, I'm so honest about it. When I saw the title of this and I saw the thing, I was like, man.
It was black and white. You're like, what are you guys doing?
I was like, I don't want to watch this. I was like, I don't want to watch this. And even when it was like Billy Bob Thornton, I was like, but I'm always happy to watch these movies. So I was very happy to watch this. I do give this like an 8 because it was just, I don't know. I don't mind black and white films. Like Sin City is a good black and white film that I really enjoy. Yeah. But I still was kind of like, do I want to get into like it just seemed like old timey, and I was just like, God. But like
also that set, the time setting too is like,
it's like,
well, and the comic book is in black and white as well.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And I'm So I'm looking at this like, what are we doing? Like, it's barbershop, white dudes. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Look at this. But I was like
Right.
thoroughly surprised. I liked it. I liked it. It had like a bit of like very dry humor in it. Because these weren't like I wasn't laughing like I wasn't busting guts,
No,
but I was
totally.
like,
Yeah.
but I was like, that's funny.
You were chuckling, right?
No, it's a
Yeah,
very
this
it
one
was a
good.
very nice chuckle. I enjoy that. I like seeing actors that I haven't. I was like, oh, Scarlett, oh, James Gandolfini. Even when I saw him, I was like, rest in peace, man. I was like, he was in this. But I thought it was like really good, and because I knew that we were going at a cinematography type of way, I kind of paid a lot of attention to like scenes and like very stylized things that I thought was very cool. But yeah, I gave it an 8. Solid.
So this is one of those nights where we're going to all agree. I think this is definitely a solid 8. This is definitely one that everybody should give a watch. I think it's definitely right. I think it's definitely a movie that you have to let unfold, but it doesn't take very long for it to start to unfold. Like you start to kind of go, wait, what is going on?
Yeah.
And a lot of the action, and well, not action, it's a little bit of action, but a lot of the story, the plot that really thickens happens pretty much within about the first 15 minutes. You get the establishment of the characters, and then you start to understand that this isn't just a movie about a barber. It's a movie about a murder mystery that isn't a mystery, but yeah. Which I love. I do love that it is a murder mystery for the characters, which is again the Coens, churning that. So
that's a sense of like I don't know what I'm trying to say, but to me, being the person that knew what happened and then watching it unfold, it was like you were in like on a dirty little secret that nobody else knew. And it was just like, oh, who gonna find out? Like who's next? Like is he gonna kill somebody else? Like
and like I think too, like part of you's kind of rooting for him to like get away with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're like,
no, and when
when
you kind of feel for him. You're like, well,
when the Crichton character shows back up at the end, I'm like, wait a minute. Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I was like,
I just thought it was funny that James Gandolfini's character was very much like, why would you do this to me? I'm a good friend to you.
Right.
You're like, why would you? It's like, dude, you've been banging my wife, man.
like, why would you do? I know exactly. Like trying to
why
like,
would you do that to me?
him like
right.
Like, come on.
I just thought that was funny. I was just like, huh?
Yeah.
Does he hear these words?
Totally try to like guilt trip him.
But Ed was such a man who wasn't there that everybody didn't care. Like his wife.
No, totally.
Yeah,
like,
that's why.
A mat. Like, just totally a doormat.
Yeah. No, that's why he didn't talk either. He was very doormatty. He didn't. Does a doormat talk to you? No, it just says hello once and it leaves it.
Even at the end, he's like, I hope we're together when we.
I know. Like maybe I'll see her. Like, damn, dude. No.
You are falling for her.
Even after finding out she was pregnant and y'all ain't had sex for some time, so you know it wasn't your baby. Like it was just so much. I was just like, this is not like a drama. It's a very drama-filled comedy. Like,
No, totally.
I was just like, you gonna die and be like, oh, we in the afterlife, not just free to be together. I'm just like, oh, Ed.
Yeah, I felt bad for Ed.
Oh, Ed.
For sure.
All right, so our next movie is the 2015 film Sicario, starring Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin, Benicio del Toro, John Barenthal makes a great appearance. Daniel, I'm going to say his last name wrong. Kaluuya, thank you. Jeffrey Donovan shows up. Burn Notice guy shows up, who I love. And then Victor Garber, who I've never actually said his name before, but he's also on The Orville, which is fantastic.
I love Victor Garber.
And then, of course...
Cinderella.
Right?
Actually, Cinderella with Brandy.
He's been around a long time. And then, of course, written by Taylor Sheridan and directed by Denis Villeneuve. So we've got, it's like an all-star cast. It's a director. It's got it. And then, of course, the highlight of the evening, Roger Deakins on director of photography. So was this your first viewing of this, Lala?
Yes, actually. I remember seeing like trailers and things like that. I'm a huge Benicio del Toro fan. So part of me was like, I knew I was supposed to watch this sometime, but I just never like got around to it. I will get more into it as everybody kind of shares their things. Like I really didn't care for Emily Blunt in this film. I I really felt like her character was not needed.
Oh,
I
damn.
understand why she was there. They needed like that catalyst, like that person, because they couldn't operate on on that soil. But
Yeah. Right.
I didn't care about her character at all. I was really more interested in Benicio del Toro's character. I thought his character was he was the highlight for me. I for me, this film could have been solely about him and about how he.
Well, then you
Uh,
need to watch the
I was
sequel.
gonna say the
I know,
sequel is
I
about
know,
Brolin and
I
him,
know,
so
Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
yeah.
And
It's
so
actually
like
really good too. I was surprised. Like,
I know I saw that I was like, "Ooh,
yeah,
I think I'm gonna have to bite that bullet and just go watch it
I,
because
yeah.
I just her character was just very I was like the whole like because it focused on her, I was just like, why are we here? I was like,
Mm,
everything that she didn't develop into anything for me. I was like, everything, like I don't. Her character's just not needed. I didn't want her. She shouldn't have been the lead for me. She should have been like Benicio's character should have been the lead, and it should have been like it should have showed a family dying in the beginning, and then maybe we follow Emily Blunt's character, and then we're like, and then we get to Benicio's character. We're like, oh, that was his family from the beginning, and then we follow him, and
mm,
maybe she's in between the scenes of being like, you need to sign this, and you need to be. We only reason we need you, like, but it needs to be from his point of view because
Hmm.
I did not care about her. I was like, somebody kill her so we can get on to the rest of the. I was like,
yeah.
not. I did not care about her character like at all.
Interesting.
And I love
Right.
Emily Blunt. I thought she turned in a great performance. Um, it just, I needed it to be about Benicio's character. I did not care
Interesting.
about her character. Yeah.
Mm,
Do you mind if I take the next stab at this? All the movie things.
of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to completely disagree with Black Girl Marvel on this one because
I figured you would.
no, and I didn't expect you to say that, but to me, uh, Kate's character, we're Kate. Like we are absolutely Kate, and we have no idea what's going on as much as she doesn't know what's going on. And I got scared every time she got scared. I was like, what's going to happen to her? So I had the exact opposite reaction that you did. Even right in the beginning when she almost gets taken out by the shotgun, I was just like, holy crap, I wouldn't know what to do in that moment. And I understand your sentiment. I understand that it feels like her character's not needed, but at the same time, yeah, we don't get to have the op if she's not with them because they need an FBI agent and they
You
needed
never
somebody.
know if you
Yeah,
just if she's like she could for me she could not be the lead and they could still have this person that kind of comes in as like a secondary character to Benicio's character. If they switched positions, for me, if they switched positions and she was like the supporting in the way that to me Benicio's character was like a supporting character because it was showed from her perspective, I probably would have enjoyed this film because if she's this great like if she's a how I didn't understand why she was just so scared all the time. It's like, don't
because she's an
aren't you like
FBI agent. She doesn't deal with CIA. She doesn't deal with DOD. She doesn't go
don't
out
she
of
deal
country.
don't she deal with guns and bad people and things like that? Like it
But she's
certain
like
things
so to the
Yeah.
book, though. Too was the thing.
was
It's like
I
she was
This
so
was
by
only
the
her
book.
fifth op, or
That was
sixth. This one was her
right.
sixth
She was
op.
still pretty green, and that was their concern
okay.
too of like bringing her in was like, can she handle this? But like
Right.
they didn't, and the thing is, they didn't really care about her.
They didn't
Anyway.
really
Right?
care.
No,
I
yeah,
You know what I
she
mean?
wasn't
Like
brought
they
in
just
for any
needed
reason.
her.
I
Yeah,
think her being green was the main reason why they kind of like wanted her because it was just like
yeah. Oh,
we
she'll
can coerce her
exactly.
into
We can
we can
manipulate
scare
her.
her
Like,
or
yeah,
manipulate her into doing what we want to do. And I understand it. I just her character just wasn't for me, I guess. Like
right.
I felt I didn't want I like films sometimes where I'm like, yo, I was this character, I was in their shoes. For me in a film that was like this, I wanted to know more about Benicio's character because how did you go from a prosecutor to the a freaking CIA trained like killer? To me, that's such an interesting story. It
Mm,
was more interesting to me than her being. I just felt like if they for me they leaned more into her character and nothing happened to her. She didn't change. She was still by the book. Like she didn't get dirtier. She got cleaner
mhm.
as it kept going. And I
Well, I
was just
think
like,
yeah.
where's the dichotomy of her character? Like I just didn't feel like to me Benicio had more of it. I just didn't care. I was just like, all right, sign the papers and go about your life
I
at this
think that's
point.
I think that's part of the commentary of the film is like she's she wasn't giving up like the whole time. She was like, okay, I'm gonna try to like do things as much as the book as I can, regardless of what these guys are trying to do. I'm still gonna like try to see things through. And I think the commentary of the film was just like, that doesn't matter. You can try to like stick
Mhm.
to your guns as much as possible, but this world is so just corrupt and beyond anything that like any kind of like by the book, which is why they have to use Benicio's character and they have to like and Brolin's character is the way he is because he's been
Mhm.
doing this for so long.
So
He's
long,
just jaded.
so
Like,
Right.
he's very
yeah, he's
jaded.
like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna do what I gotta do. I don't give a shit. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like,
Jennings, Kate's boss, actually sits them both down, sits her and Reggie down, and says, "Do you guys really feel like we've done anything and we've had more arrests in the last 2 years than ever
right,
before?" And they're
right,
both like, "No." And they're like, "This is why you're
yeah,
authorized to go do this."
yeah,
I think the other part is that the whole concept and the fact that there's a sequel is interesting because to me, the whole concept of this movie is the moment where you realize that her being there was literally just for their convenience and that was
yeah,
it. And so we're
Mhm.
going
yeah,
through
yeah, yeah,
because the whole time you're like, what's she learning? Because he keeps telling her to learn and pay attention and pay,
yeah,
but
yeah,
he's really
yeah,
just telling her that because there's nothing else to tell her.
yeah,
And you don't realize it. But even that meeting in the room where you get the Delta Force and the marshals, and then the
mhm,
the Mexican police and everybody are all there, and he's known by all of these people perfectly, and they never address her. They never even bring her up or
no,
anything.
yeah, like, oh man,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like I
Even the
really
like
paid
Delta
attention to
guy
that shot.
like pushes his
Yeah,
way past her. Like she was
totally, yeah,
just a pawn, like literally.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so we get to
Yeah.
feel what it
um,
feels like to be a pawn in a sense. And I think
I
that's the
didn't feel any of
concept of
that.
the story.
I was like, "Get
yeah.
her out of there." I was like, "How can you
Well, I
put
mean, I
some
think I think that's
opposite
part of
like
it too.
that?"
I think there's a lot to like.
She did feel out of place. I will say that was I
No,
got
she's
that
totally
sense
out of place. Like
very well.
she
She
didn't.
felt she felt out of place. But there were just so many instances where like even Reggie was like, "Yo, we should just go. Like this isn't the place for us to
Mhm,
go." But I felt like she just wanted to know, right? I just think she just like, "Okay, I'm already in it. I'm in it. There's nothing else for me to do. Like you not going by the book. I can't make you go by the book, but I'm gonna know what I got myself into. I'm going to
yeah,
know
she's gonna
what I did." And
keep
so like
track of
I
it.
that wasn't a bad aspect of it, but I just didn't his story was just way more compelling to me than
Okay.
hers.
Well, I
I
think
And
I
like,
won't
think
disagree
that's
and
with
I
that.
part of
feel
it
like if
though.
they would
Like,
have, I feel like if they would have set her up as a character for me more, because
yeah,
they didn't really introduce her, and the way that they introduced her was kind of different in a way, just like an odd way of
mhm,
introducing somebody that I couldn't latch on to her, but I latched on to Benicio's character like super quick
Mhm.
mhm.
because
I
of
think
his
that's
track.
part of it though. Like, I think you aren't. I don't think everyone's necessarily supposed to like Emily's character. I think because I think that's part of like what it's trying to say is like there's these two sides of this world, you know, and like I think you're gonna like latch on to Emily and take that ride with her, or you're gonna latch on to Benicio del Toro's character because they do have a lot of like, even though she's technically like the lead, I feel like they both have like a good amount of equal screen time,
Mhm.
No, no, they
where
do, they do.
and yeah, no, like don't get me wrong, like Benicio del Toro's character is very compelling and like his whole story of like kind of like he's he's gonna do what he's got to do too, but he's also like
Mhm.
doing these like little side jobs as a way to like a
To
means to
get
an
to
end,
where
so he
he's
can,
been, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I can totally see like what you're saying. Um, I think for me, it's just I'm so in love with Emily Blunt, that she can do no wrong.
I get
So
it. She's beautiful, but I think my love for
right,
Benicio goes a little further. So it's
right. So
it's one of those things,
yeah,
man. But like, don't get me wrong, I think she played her part extremely
yeah,
well. This has
yeah.
no bearings on her as an actress. She's
No,
amazing.
totally. Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought she
yeah,
was an amazing actress. I just felt like I just didn't
yeah.
I didn't attach myself to her. Right? I feel like if they would have given me something in the beginning, I don't know, her leaving her house, saying bye to her mom on the phone, or I don't know,
Mm,
a picture of her and her old
Maybe
unit
her
or
and
something.
Reggie
yeah.
actually just
Maybe
having
her
some
and Reggie
camaraderie. Yeah.
actually like seeing her as a more of a. I didn't latch on to her in a
Mm,
way that I would have wanted to. Like if they would have introduced her like 5 minutes of some character placement of getting to know her instead of me having to get to know her in this situation. I was just like, why do I care that this is happening to her? I don't care that this is happening to her. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I care that the reason why Benicio's character is this way is because this dude killed his family because, oh, snap. So now I'm focused on him, where if I'm focused on her, I would probably be latched onto both of them and not know where to go in the movie. For me in the
Mm,
movie, I went directly to him because I was just like, I don't. But
yeah.
if I liked both of them, this would have been a way more interesting film for me. If
So
I
do you
took,
still like the movie even though
I
you
still
were
like the
attached
movie,
to?
even though
So
I was
that's what
attached
I'm.
to the
Yeah. So that's
character.
kind of like what I was trying to say was like I think you can still enjoy the film regardless of who
Yeah,
you're following. You know,
no,
and I
for
think
sure.
that's kind of part of the point that the film is
Yeah,
trying to make
but I
too.
wanted to
But
latch on to both
right.
and be
Yeah. Yeah. And
really
it's
messed up on
yeah.
like
Yeah.
be really messed up because if they would have to me if they would have established her just a little bit more and I was connected to her,
Hmm.
anytime that somebody hit her or they was disrespectful to her, I would have been like, whoa, hey,
Yeah.
hey, instead of just being like, yeah, make it like she don't belong here. Get her, but like, she don't belong here.
Yeah.
But he's stuck here, man. Like, you know what I mean, type of thing.
No,
But
but
if I would have latched
Let them
onto
do their
both,
job.
but
whatever,
Brolin's
if I would have latched
character,
onto the
Totally.
both,
the way he acts is that she doesn't belong there. Because like when she goes into
Oh
the
yeah.
bank, for example, he tells her, "Don't do that. What are you doing? Don't do
been
that."
but he
Hmm.
knew he
Hmm.
knew she was gonna do
I
it.
know, and of course, her doing it is what puts her in extreme mortal danger, and gets Now we're gonna go into a little cinematography here because that scene is where my brain went. Oh, that shot is beautiful. As soon as she realizes that John Barenthal is not a good guy, not a good cop,
Man, yeah.
and you see her face, and he's shooting
Sorry, I
the
just used
no
it.
no
Yeah.
hey he's Deakins they're shooting the table and focused on her, and then they fade back. They pulled the focus back to
Yeah.
see the bracelet, and you're like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely powerful moments. Again, her acting in that moment, especially the way she like pulled away from him and
Oh
started to
yeah.
feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think that she's green and we're green, and so it fits in the sense that we have to have somebody to follow. And I don't think that
Oh, of
Reggie would have
course.
been a good character for
I
that.
felt seasoned, man. I felt seasoned.
You're like, I know Brolin.
Okay.
He's always a villain.
Oh yeah.
We
I'm just gonna
know,
trust.
right?
Del Toro, he's not. He's always a villain, but like he's a little bit of a good guy, but mainly a villain for the most part.
No, that's the thing that you like that I love about his character too is like he's still got to do what he's got to do, but he's also not
Yeah,
gonna like. I mean, he probably would have killed her if like she didn't sign those things, but he
I
knew
honestly
that she
felt
was
like
gonna
he
sign
would
them.
have. But I
Yeah.
also felt like, I mean, not the signing. I think he needed that so that
Yeah. Right.
he would have killed her. He would have did something. He
Yeah.
would have made it so. But I felt like he shot her a couple of times or whatever throughout the film. Like he was just like, or he threatened her. He shot her. He was like, "Don't get in my face.
Don't
Mhm.
ever
Like,
point
don't
a
ever
gun at
get in my
me,
face.
right?
Don't put a gun at
Yeah.
me."
Yeah.
Like he's done some things that but I also feel like he won't. I
But then he
I don't. I
saves
feel
her
like
too. You
right.
know,
And he
like
saved
yeah.
her. So like I feel like because his family was innocent, he would never kill anybody innocent. But
I
he
don't know
would
though.
like. But I feel like he would put the
You know.
no. But
Three
see,
people didn't deserve to
no.
die that he just went ahead and took them out.
But that's different because that's an eye for an eye. That's different.
I guess he did it
Because my
before for the
my
deal. Yeah,
family
that's a good point.
was
Right.
innocent, so like it's an eye for an eye at this point. Like your family's not innocent now because you made them not innocent. You know what I mean?
Because
Type
of
of
who
thing.
you are and what you've
Because
involved
of
them
who you
in.
are,
Right, right,
Right.
and what
Yeah.
you did
Yeah.
to my family, you made them not innocent.
right.
So,
Yeah.
but I feel like for her, she's like literally innocent. So I felt like he knew that he could be like more intimidating to
Hmm.
get her to do the things because there's no other way for her to go. What else you gonna do? Like
Yeah.
it's been done, and now and you see what I can do. You see what I've done, and either you
Yeah.
die
That's a good point.
or
Like
I.
because it isn't like basically the end of the film, and she's experienced like how capable he is and
Yeah.
what he's capable of. Just like fuck, like damn it, like you know.
No,
And she
yeah,
has good instincts. She has good instincts because she knew from the beginning that something wasn't quite right about his
Oh
character.
yeah, even on the
You know what
plane
I mean?
right.
Even
when
on
he
the
first
like
went on the plane,
But
yeah,
she
like
knew
she
that about
knew.
Brolin even in the DoD office. Like she
Oh
could
yeah,
see
yeah,
the
yeah.
flip flops. She's like, why is this guy wearing flip
And
Yeah,
flops?
yeah, yeah.
maybe that's her own hubris. Even though she's green, most people that are green follow directions. Like they follow not only the rules, but they follow directions. They follow that chain of
Mhm.
command. but she has a bit of hubris to her that's like, well, I know I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah,
Right.
So
she's
I
yeah,
have the
she's gonna
right
stick to
to
her
be in
guns.
these
Yeah.
spaces because I know I'm doing the right thing, but that's not how this world works.
No, yeah, and that's even why she says to Brolin's character, she's like, "I'm gonna talk. I'm going to tell people." And it's like, do you
Right.
really? So even your boss told you this is how it is, and you think you're gonna go tell people? Like, this is the CIA. I don't care if you're FBI. This is they'll
Right.
make you
But
disappear.
also,
Oh,
you've
yeah.
seen what we've done, and you have the gall to say that to my face. I'll just
Right.
kill you now, so you don't have to. You won't say anything.
Right. I mean, there's literally a tunnel. We can drop you on the other side of the border. You're
And
gone
be done.
forever. Right.
Yeah.
Just report that you were
Just
lost
a
in.
casualty of yeah.
Don't trust someone who wears flip flops. That's
Yeah.
why you.
What about
Yeah.
Crocs? I'm wearing Crocs right now, so let's just be
Crocs work. Crocs
Okay,
are a trustworthy person. Yeah.
yeah. And they have the little flip back. Never mind. We don't need to go into that.
There you go.
So, this film is gritty, without a doubt. And
Yeah.
it's not even just in the dark moments because you get all the bodies in the beginning, and I swear I could smell the smell in that house. And I think that's a combination of Roger Deakins and Dene coming together to just always fill in that scent. I always feel like in either of their work, I feel like I'm in what's going on rather than just watching it.
Yeah.
And this movie
Yeah,
really
yeah.
does suck you right in. Even like the border crossing scene is
Man,
wicked intense.
it's so good.
And Jeffrey Donovan's character, and I think 7 Years of Burn Notice really helped him kind of hone that type of character in.
Yeah.
But the room of those guys was intimidating. Then I'm talking about our guys. Like, I was intimidated by the people that are supposed to be our heroes, even more so than maybe the federales or the cartel folks across the border. I was more worried about her than maybe some of the families we saw, which is just weird. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, this wasn't your first time watching it all the movie.
Oh no, I've seen this thing multiple
Oh,
times. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It's like one of my favorites. Yeah, for sure.
Not one I could watch every week, but definitely one I could watch every couple years.
No, yeah. And like it's one of my favorites of I think this was the first time that Denny worked with Roger, and then they would go on to work on Prisoners. And then of course Blade Runner 2049.
Man, 3 movies together?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all 3 brilliant, so that works.
Yeah. And what was I gonna say? Well, I was gonna talk about like that border crossing scene and like how well they like the tension that they build in that is not even it doesn't even start when they stop at the border crossing. It starts as soon as they cross the border the first time into Mexico, and everything starts then because they're like, I mean, it's just an intense thing. Like I love so there's a lot more aerials in this than what like Deakins has like actually shot, and that's like a separate team. It's like a second unit kind of thing, and he still has to like approve the image and everything. Um, but there's a lot of aerials used in this, and for good reason. Like we get to see, especially that because we're following those trucks, um, those SUVs through, and they're hauling ass, like they have a purpose, And we see a lot of these aerials, and then also like when the Mexican police, I believe, once they get into that border and they get into that town, they kind of like escort them. And there's a shot where like we're on one of those trucks with them, and we get to like ride, with
Over
them
the
and like
bumps
going
and
up
stuff,
and down.
right?
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cool. And there's building all this tension up because you don't know what's going on. Like we're riding with these guys too, and we're like back in those SUVs with Emily. Um, and then like they meet up and get the person they're supposed to get, and they immediately like get out of there, like they don't even waste any time. They immediately turn around, but then they have this other element, like the tension's already there. Now they got to get back out, and then they add this other element of like, oh, there's local police that are like basically
That work for the cartels.
yeah, they work for the cartels, and they're kind of like watching them, and then we're back in the perspective of Emily, you know, because she's watching out for him and she sees that. And so, like, I mean, she's never been in this kind of position or op before, and then we're back on these trucks. And then the moment like the escorts leave them, then they're like kind of exposed more. So like there's another element of tension there. and it's all in like the way these things are shot and the perspectives that we're given, like of the camera. And then we have this great like aerial again when they stop and they have to wait, and then like they're just like sitting ducks basically, literally,
Oh, and they're
and like
told don't move unless they move. I'm like,
yeah,
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
man,
like
that's
this, yeah,
brutal.
that shot. Oh my god, so just like
Well, there was a lot of these types of shots in the movie,
yeah,
and I was going to
exactly.
ask about that. I'm glad you brought it up that it was a second unit, because there were just even just of the mountains and of Juarez and a
Yeah,
lot of the like really above ground shots, which is just
yeah.
you didn't see really much of that in the way of the man who wasn't there.
No,
Um,
totally. Yeah, yeah.
so yeah,
He hasn't
it's
really done a lot of stuff like that to begin with, you know. And like for whatever reason, I mean, again, that could be like a thing of where it's like maybe Danae wanted those kind of shots in
Yeah.
it. So, um, and that's where like the collaboration between the director and the DP is like it's so like you know linked up because
that makes
yeah,
me have a question. Do you think
yeah,
that the second DP would then go to Deakins and say, "How do you want me to approach this? What are we looking for lighting?"
probably yeah. Like I'm sure they're using like the same cameras. This was shot digital. I imagine they shot it on an RE. Um, that's like Deacon's gonna go to. Like Ari has worked a lot with him. On 1917, they shot with the smaller Ari. So Ari has this like very smaller, very powerful camera now. Um, and because they were like mounted on all these different gimbals and rigs, it was easier to like to use the smaller version of the Alexa, basically. So the Ari Alexa is like I mean, it's pretty much a standard. And one reason, like, this is why Deakins loves digital too, because of the Ari Alexa, the Ari Alexa just is the closest thing he's seen to reproducing film, what
Mhm.
film looks
Is that
like.
the picture of the
So,
camera that you sent me? Is that the specific camera, or is this just a huge, fuck off kind of camera that you sent me?
oh, let me see which one
I'm
it
gonna
is.
actually put it up here real quick. So this one right here. Let me know if that's the one you're talking about because you'd sent me this
I think it
picture.
is. I'm looking at it right now. I think it is.
Oh, that it's hard to tell because it's like that was just an image of like like a second AC basically like so that's her job is to lug that camera around,
Right?
put it in different positions. I don't think that's an Alexa. It's hard to tell. I'd
Okay.
have to look. I can't. You can't see the body because like you got the wireless rig, you got the battery and the viewfinder. Um, I wish I could find an Alexa for you, but the body's like all gray and it's actually not too big either. It's like it's hard to describe, but it's about that big. It's still a pretty good size, but you have to like that camera's fully built out, of course, the one that you saw there. That one might have been a Sony or a red. Red is all black too. Like a lot of like Fincher loves using the red camera. Like that's been his thing. Which is another thing that I like thought of another filmmaker I thought about with that Quentin Tarantino, thing was like so I wonder if he doesn't like Fincher stuff either because Fincher loves digital and prefers digital and uses specifically red cameras on pretty much everything. Since digital became a thing, he's always used red, so it's always been his thing. But
It's funny how we're covering all the directors most people would say are way overrated, and I'm like, it's
right,
weird how they're really successful, so they're overrated. That's weird how that kind of plays out.
yeah, I
I
know
don't agree with
it
that,
seems
but
that way, but
yeah.
but yeah. So like Deakins would like the that DP of the second unit would consult with Deakins, I would imagine, yeah,
Well,
just so
because
they
it
get the
didn't
same
change the
look.
feel. The feel and the look still
No,
felt the
totally,
same the whole
exactly.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
assumed.
yeah.
There are some other shots here that we've brought for Sicario, and we can of course still get back into the storyline. But I think that I think we've definitely covered it pretty
Yeah,
well.
I murdered that storyline. Yeah,
No, you're good. You're good. So let me pull up the shot that I was talking about. I really mentioned the bracelet or the wristband, however you want to put it, shot, and that's this one right here. And of course, you can
Mm-hmm.
see Emily Blunt's face in there. And of course, the shot starts with her face, and you can't even tell you're looking at a glass table at first. You just
Yeah.
It's just her inverted,
Reflection.
and then they pull
Mhm.
back, and you see the keys with that wristband. And I don't know, even just this in
And
a
maybe
still
even more.
frame, is
Yeah.
pretty damn gorgeous. So it,
Yeah.
how he does that, I don't know. If I did, I'd probably be a DP. So I'm assuming you have some thoughts on how he pulls these kinds of things off. But
I mean, so a lot of his stuff is really soft. So he's like using a lot of diffusion.
mhm.
He's diffusing every single thing that he can to get as soft a light as possible. Um, which is funny because like that's what I prefer. Like I love like whenever I shoot a lot of interviews. Um, so I try to like use soft the light as possible because one, it just like it makes people look better. It just like will take away wrinkles, and plus you have like less harsh shadows, which highlights wrinkles more and fine lines on the face. So just as soft as light as possible, or I'll even like bounce a light. Like that's even better because that's a way of diffuse. If you don't have diffusion to put actually physically on the light, then a way to do that is to turn the light and bounce it on something instead. So a lot of times I'll bring up like a bounce card, or just even like go to Home Depot and get a piece of like foam insulation.
Hmm,
It's a white foam insulation. That is that thing like bounces light like crazy. I mean, so I'll use that, bounce the light off of that, and reflect it back onto the face, and you get this like really great, super soft light on someone's face.
interesting.
Um,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
and you
doing in
can,
this room. All my light is bouncing, or it's
yeah.
diffused in some way, shape, or form.
There you go. Yeah.
So I'm with you.
So he's definitely like um using as soft a light as possible, whether it's bounce. He does like bounce light as well, but um yeah, it just depends on the location too, because sometimes it's not fully achieved. And again, it goes back to the story too. Like, do you want to have like really harsh lights? You know what I mean?
So
So like,
let's. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, so I was gonna say like in some of those shots and the mana wasn't there, they're probably some of that light is not diffused. Like those to create those like really long and hard shadows. He's probably just like throwing the light directly on them
Hmm.
without any diffusion on it.
But it's way
But
like
then
that shot with the stairs. It was way off
yeah,
screen, so that you're not going to really see
exactly. So
that.
you're not seeing his face anyway,
Right.
and we want to see like create all these shadows. Um, but anytime you see their faces though, it's like nice light, like nice daylight coming from a window, and you can really soften that up too. So
Let's talk about this shot right here, which is the one we both kind of brought up and both brought to the table, if you will.
yeah,
And we all, as photographers, we know that the golden hour is the best time of day, whether it be morning or night, to shoot
and it goes fast
photography, and it goes really
too.
fast. But he took advantage of the fact that it disappeared fast. I mean, he's out in the desert,
Mhm,
so there's no mountains to really obscure much here,
mhm.
and you get to see the full horizon. And it had to be the perfect, just slightly cloudy night for them to do this. But
Yeah,
this whole
so that was
scene is really
something.
intense. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was something they mentioned that they were concerned about was the clouds. Because before they weren't gonna have a lot of clouds in the weather, and they ended up just going with it and added this element that they weren't really planning on, and so they actually just rolled with it. And so the clouds do really help with the look of the film. Um, but yeah, so you get like and like again, like the clouds are just helping here with the silhouette, and helping you like get that horizon line. And yeah, just another example of a great silhouette that he loves to do.
Oh yeah,
And like if you watch No Country for Old Men, there's a very similar, which I think is actually a day for night shot, but still he's silhouetting people in it. In No Country for Old Men, there's a lot of great stuff in that one. I don't think this is a day for night though, but I'm pretty sure that's a straight up,
a real dusk shot,
yeah, like dusk shot.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Day for night. You should tell people what that means.
Yeah. So a day for night is literally what it sounds like. You shoot the shot in the day, and then in post, you make it look like it's night. So, but the
Okay,
thing
so
is, you still want to, yeah, you still want to like plan for it. You can't just shoot it like in like a high noon day
Right.
and then try to make it because you want the light to still kind of be a little lower so
So a
you can
cloudy
still,
day would be good.
the cloudy day would be great because that's easier. Also, like that's another like fun tip is if you're gonna shoot outside and shoot faces, especially shoot on an overcast day because the sun is diffused through all those clouds and it's just great soft light. The sun, you can't control the sun anyway, so the
Or
best way is to wait for clouds.
another alternative is to put your subject in shadow and then diffuse that light from the real sunlight. You can even just bounce it onto them while they're in shadow. There are little
Yeah,
techniques
you can do
to
that
do that.
too.
That's a
Yeah,
little trickier, but yeah.
So I
yeah.
have a question. So,
Sure.
Then you have
so,
equipment to bring, and yeah.
Right.
so in the okay, you guys watch Obi-Wan Kenobi, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so in the last episode with him and Vader, spoiler alert, what I said, but in the last episode when they're facing off against each other, how would you say they filmed that? Did they film that like at during light or like at night?
Well,
You know,
so the
or
thing is, they're probably shooting on the volume, which they have total control over. So they could literally just go all day and shoot that thing just with the volume because the volume actually is all controlled by a visual effects team, and the light from those panels is actually lighting them too, so they're actually using the light, so it looks very natural. So they probably just found and created those images basically in the volume. And then the same thing with like they did a similar thing in the Batman, the Greg Fraser shot, because he's had experience with the volume on the Mandalorian. And so they of course couldn't use the volume because it's Disney's thing, but they did create something very similar to the volume in the Batman, and a lot of that light is coming from those panels, from those like
okay,
yeah, it's from those screens. So it was that, but probably what you'd probably do, like especially with like a complicated fight sequence, you'd probably want to shoot day for night. Like
Interesting.
that's what I would do.
Now, a
Yeah,
lot of
just
the
because
red
you have
and
more
blue
time.
is after the fact, of course, as well.
Yeah,
They've added that in with
right.
visual effects.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but most of that was shot in studio. Like almost the majority of that show
Yeah, exactly. And
was
that's what
shot
the
in studio.
volume is
Right.
like,
yeah.
yeah, they're cool, fancy thing.
So there were a couple other shots that you gave us that you had sent to me to put up. So here's the one from her in the bar, and I really love the color contrast in this, where
Yeah,
you've got
this
the
one was
blue
just
with the
like,
orange in the
yeah, I
background.
just love. I mean, look at that. I just loved it because it's freaking gorgeous. Like it's just a great use of like practicals. I mean, like this is for me, this is like quintessential Deakins shot, like how he's lighting all this stuff. I mean, the the light on her is probably coming from like a lot of bars they'll light up the bottles and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
that's probably coming from that. And he's probably using something, of course, to like because that wouldn't in a real bar setting that wouldn't like reach that far
Right.
to your
He's using
face.
something to amplify it.
Yeah, because you have to be like right up on it. Also, like cameras don't see like we see, so you need a lot more light to throw on her. So they probably put something on there that emulates that. But then all those cool lights in the background just add, like
Yeah.
just such depth and like, I mean, I just love that kind of stuff.
But I
Like,
mean, I think it's kind of cool though because like she's kind of like in blue and she's
yeah,
also blue in that
yeah.
scene. Like
Right.
And this
it's
point in the
it's
film,
like
right?
it's
Yeah.
showing how like it's showing. And I kind of like that. I've noticed that a lot of movies when I
Mhm,
actually pay attention is sometimes even how they dress informs the scene and
Hmm.
like how the lighting is, like how somebody can um like in Kung Fu Panda when like Poe comes up the steps and he stops Tai Lung from like hurting
mhm,
Shifu, like Shifu and Tai Lung are covered in darkness, and then like this one bit of
yeah.
light comes up, and like Poe has a light behind him, so it's like a thing like of light into. So like I
Yeah.
love seeing things like that in like film. So
Mhm.
that's a cool way of
Yeah.
showing.
And that's
It's a cool
and
way
then
of showing how she feels without saying how she
yeah,
feels.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
100%.
that goes back to your point, what you had mentioned, Lala, about cinematography really informs the audience like so much emotion. And it is
They
like
don't
an
even
actor for the actors.
they-
Like, yeah. Like, and that's where like color theory comes into play. You can go on a whole thing about color theory and like color on lighting and cinematography and like how important, you know, and why we use so many different like oranges and blues, and like complementary colors and how they
Well, this has that.
psychologically affect us. Like,
This one
yeah,
has those
exactly.
blues
No,
and
it's
those
totally
oranges in the
in
back
that.
are 100%.
Yeah,
I do love also that the cowboy on the horse or on the bull is just slightly out of focus. You can tell you're at a
yeah,
redneck
exactly.
bar,
No, totally. Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's
It's
still
like
out of focus.
those
So
elements are there. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so I do love that.
So it's just a mix of like, okay, we have to inform some emotion, but also a just a really well composed lit shot. Like I
Yeah.
just love it. Yeah.
So here's another one that you sent to me, and this is of course of Kate and Reggie as they're talking to Jenkins or Jennings, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about why you chose this shot.
This one again is just another like so this is a great example of like soft, like that light is soft as hell. Like
Mhm.
that is super soft. The shadow fall off on her face is like super minimal, and still her other side of her face is still exposed, but it's still in shadow. Um, and it's kind of tough too because it's like it's an all white room, you know what I mean? But that's like daylight, emulating daylight coming on her face because I believe there's a window on the other side
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I think it's
Um,
a bunch of big picture windows.
yeah, yeah. So, and kind of a cool thing. This is like a, a production design thing where it's like in a set deck thing where um they probably put those pictures there and that TV there and everything because like it's so boring. Like let's don't have a white wall back there. Like this is probably a nightmare because it's a government building, right? So it's going to be boring. So they probably threw some pictures up there to add some interest and depth in the background and not just have a white wall bouncing off it. Because then she'd probably look washed out too
Right.
if
Yeah.
they had just a white wall, So
No, that's a good point because the
yeah,
color around you will influence the way the color on
yeah,
your
and
face looks as well.
and a lot of times, like he's talked about 3 point lighting and like the standard, you know, basic real cinematography 101 is 3 point lighting, which is standard like interview lighting. You're gonna want a key light, an edge light, which it would, or you can call it a hair light. Like she doesn't really have anything to edge her. But the
Hmm.
thing is, like you're using those images and that wall on the other side, the white on the other side of her, on her right side, that's enough to edge because like that's another trick you can do is like, okay, let's use the background to edge her. I don't need because then it doesn't look natural if you're gonna like, oh yeah, let's have a highlighting her hair in the background for no fucking reason. Like,
Right.
like
I like the
why is
phone
that there?
too. The phone,
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
table would be very boring without the phone, and you
exactly.
would
Let's
just
have
have this
something on
kind
the
of
phone.
plain
Yeah,
gray foreground, and it would be really
yeah.
weird. Um, the
So
TV seems strangely, now that you pointed out, that TV seems weirdly put in the corner.
right.
It doesn't look like it's maybe it's on wheels, but
Oh, what if
I
they
don't
do a
know.
video
Yeah,
call
it's
with
probably
her?
on the
People even a private video call with
yeah,
her.
Yeah.
exactly. Like
But I
I
do
mean,
like the reflection on the TV. I like that as well.
yeah, and again, that's another thing. Like,
I mean,
oh,
I
this
kind of look
adds
at
more
it
depth to
like
the room.
Right.
it's still like a bit of a blue in this scene. Like it's not
Mhm.
No,
like
totally. Yeah, there
it's not
is.
like
Yeah.
fully blue. But then I also
Uh-huh.
think of it like if we say that color informs the scene, she can be a little blue in this scene. Like she can be a little sad even if she is like having this conversation. But there's still light, and you realize that Reggie is her light. So
Hmm.
in the room
Yeah.
they're in together, it's a bit brighter. Even though she's a little sad, she has that person there
Oh yeah.
to
Hmm.
I like that.
because she's very up on the table. I think their body language even conveys
Hmm.
that in a way of like
Yeah. He's
a
kind of checked out, like kind of
yeah.
tired of like, yeah, yeah.
And then you
No,
had
again, that was
also,
just another shot that I just really loved, like the way it looked. So
for sure, you had sent this one as well. It was the shot of her with her service weapon, and she's firing at the federale. That's
The
you know
flare,
yeah,
the light, pretty dope. The
yeah,
flare, like that's nice.
it's just
yeah.
I don't know. It's an
This is
interesting
a
shot. Go ahead.
yeah. And it's just like so that this is at the border crossing scene,
Mhm.
and again, all like I feel like everything, all that tension they're building was leading up to this moment here when she finally, you know, is able to fire off a shot because it's just like because it's just if to me it felt like things were closing in on her, and she's still they all are out. She's still in the vehicle. You know what I mean? Like everyone else though is out with their weapons engaging, and she's just kind of like staying in this claustrophobic vehicle, and I feel like things are closing in on her. And finally she like is able to like assert herself and you know, fire her weapon.
Right. No, yeah, that's a good point.
And again, it was just like a great shot. You know, I don't know if that. I'm sure that was an actual muzzle flash. Because a lot nowadays you can throw it in digitally, but then you don't get muzzle flash on the face,
Right.
which is why they generally like to use real muzzle flash. But yeah, that was just another great shot. But also it was the pinnacle moment of that whole scene that it led up. Because after that, everything dies back down, and then they're able to carry on.
Yeah, no, yeah. Great. This has been awesome. I've been really enjoying this episode just for the in-depth nature that we're doing, because we don't always get to go this far in. I'm hoping we can bring these elements to future episodes where we,
Yeah.
we'll do.
I can't keep telling my girlfriend this stuff.
I mean, you can, but eventually she'll be like,
right.
"You've told
She's
me
just
that
like,
already."
yeah.
Right. So yeah,
It's
it
like,
does.
yeah, she can finish it. And we're like, yeah, and when I get it. And when the light's here, then it's we all understand.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty funny. I've caught myself sometimes. I'm like, I'm doing it again, aren't I? Like, no, it's fine.
I'm a little tired, but
she'll say that until it's not fine, and then she'll be like,
finish.
she'll do a little of these, a couple of eye rolls,
She'll just fall asleep every while.
or falling asleep. Yeah.
Right.
So La, to put your mind at ease, Kate's character is not in the sequel, so you don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
she's not.
I looked it up already.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, good. Yeah.
My thing is, if she wasn't a sequel, bring her back as a villain. Maybe they changed it.
I'll tell you what, like, I was kind of against the Arena sequel, and then I went and watched it though, and I was like pleasantly surprised.
Interesting. Okay, I haven't seen the sequel, so I will be watching it.
That's how I felt about Toy Story 4. I was like, nobody asked for this. Nobody asked you guys to bring this back. And then I watched it, and I was like,
oh man, that was good. Yeah.
You deserve a happy ending. You're right. Go ahead, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the sequel because I'm very curious. But this is how you know I'm crazy about Benicio del Toro, because when he shoots the family at the end, I was like, yes.
You love yourself some Benicio del Toro.
I mean, there was
yes, I do. He's the greatest, man. Yeah,
I love Rocket making fun of him. Sorry.
Because I like things where it's, to me, that's realistic if in the setting of the story of the character, right? If he didn't kill, if he all of a sudden had a change of heart, I like that he's a person who stuck to his guns. I thoroughly.
Well, I think that's kind of like, I think that's the thing though too. Like they both were like that. Yeah, exactly. Like then there's just immediate.
Like I said, the only thing is their setup of her. I feel like that was a real letdown for me. Was they didn't really set her up. You just assumed that I should like her character, and I don't understand why you think that was going to be a thing. If they just 5 minutes of setting her up, I would have been, this movie would have tore me to pieces because I wouldn't have known who was right and who was wrong. That would have been a great feeling to have, and that's what I was missing. We need to rate though. We need to rate.
We do. We do.
Another fun fact. So the opening scene when the truck bashes through that wall, that was on a set. That was on a sound stage. That wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Switch back and forth.
Okay. We do want to rate, but because you brought up Benicio several times, so I wanted to know when your first encounter with Benicio was. What was the first film you saw him in?
Oh, maybe we should just do a whole Benicio episode.
I really don't know. Ooh, that's a good question.
Was it The Usual Suspects? Because that's the one I remember.
Oh man,
I don't know. I gotta look.
He was in a Bond movie too.
Mm-hmm.
Like even before that.
I could put a pen on it. It might be The Usual Suspects.
I mean, he's been in some stuff. He's been around.
No, he's really been in some stuff, and I'm just kind of like, what was it? Because I am obsessed with him. It's like you would think I would know.
Traffic. I don't remember him in. Weirdly enough, no,
he
was in that.
Yeah.
He was in a Madonna music video. Okay. He was also on Miami Vice.
I can see that. Yeah.
So let's see. Big Top Pee-wee was his first movie. That's interesting. He played Duke, the dog-faced boy.
It might have been Pee-wee.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how I didn't know that. And then License to Kill was his Bond movie.
Yep.
And then let's see, The Indian Runner, Christopher Columbus, Money for Nothing. That's a John Cusack movie. Fearless, Jeff Bridges. So he's been around with some pretty big actors. He's even from the early days. Oh,
It's
he did a
either
Tales from the Crypt episode as well.
it's either Traffic, which I think it is Traffic. It's either Traffic
Yeah, I feel
or
like
Sin
that's
City, but I think it's Traffic. I think Traffic was the first like he got my attention, and I think Sin City is when he kept it.
That's fair.
mhm.
That's fair. For me, Usual Suspects, and it's because of how quirky and odd his character is in that movie, and there's some great stuff about how he actually made it difficult for the rest of the actors because his accent was so weird that they literally couldn't follow him, and so a lot of that, like, we don't understand what you're talking about, was real. They really had no idea what he was talking about. But yeah, how about you, Brian? Do you Bond then? Because I know you're a big Bond guy.
Yeah, it was probably Bond. And the funny thing is, like, I didn't realize it was him until like years later, because like Traffic for me was probably where he really stood out. I think too, because he had a really great
Yeah.
role in that. But Usual Suspects as well. But for me, like, it was Traffic that really like made me pay more attention to him.
It wasn't Excess Baggage with Alicia Silverstone.
Oh yeah, maybe I just
The Way of the Gun. Never mind.
that
If it
Ma-
wasn't Usual Suspects for me, it was Way of the Gun with
that
him and Ryan
Madonna video
Phillippe.
is very compelling though.
It was.
so-
It really was. No. I know Biggie loves The Way of the Gun, and you'll probably remember him from that. But that's really kind of,
Yeah.
you're right. Traffic. So he had Fear and Loathing,
Yeah.
Way of the Gun,
Yeah, Fear and
Snatch,
Loathing,
Traffic,
right.
like a whole bunch
Yeah,
in a
Snatch was
row.
great. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then some misses, but hey, that's not necessarily
Mhm,
just one
of course.
actor's fault by any means. But yeah, we should rate, but I really, he became a topic of the evening besides Roger
Totally.
Deakins, so I thought might as well touch on that.
Yeah.
So this has been an episode about Roger Deakins. If you guys want to know more about cinematography in general, please follow All the Movie Things on TikTok. He is all about the cinematographies.
Do it because I told you to.
Right. And I do believe that All the Movie Things should start a YouTube channel just dedicated to cinematography.
Just
But that's just my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Take it however you want.
I think
That's
it
just
should
me.
be the Deakins Daily. I don't know.
Ooh,
Daily
Yeah.
or something.
There you
I
go.
like that. Daily Deakins, but he does that on Twitter. We encourage you, Ryan. We want you to do more.
Thank you. No,
And
you guys
yes,
are too kind.
do more of those Deakins emojis. Iena is the one that built
I
those
know.
out
I
for
love
us,
these.
and they're
Deakins emojis
great.
are so good. Yeah. So funny.
So yeah, let's rate the film. We've got a couple more minutes here. All the Movie Things. What was your rating for Sicario?
Oh man. It's like a 9.5 for me. I just love everything about it. Immediately too. I mean, it wasn't even, of course it's Deakins. There's a Deakins factor, but it's just, and then there's an Emily Blunt factor, so it's like, I mean, yeah, kind of was kind of going crazy, but I just love the way it's just the way it builds tension is so good, just visually too. Like, I mean,
And the music, which we didn't cover.
yeah, the music. Oh yeah, the music's so great, and like that whole sequence of the border crossing. There's really very little dialogue in that whole exchange. Like, it's just all built up visually. So, yep, 9.5.
9.5. Kid, you probably not going to watch
Kid
this
me.
movie.
I probably would have watched it because I watched a lot of
Edgier dramas, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I did. Yeah.
Me too.
I would probably like it less, but I'd probably still give it like a 7.5. Yeah.
All right.
Like that.
How about you, Black Girl Marvel?
Even with the Emily Blunt factor, which is it's not the same factor as Brian's.
Yeah.
I give this film an 8. I still enjoyed it. Stuff to say I didn't enjoy this film. I still thought it was good. It was so compelling enough. I just paid more attention to Benicio's character than I did Emily Blunt's character. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. My 12-year-old self probably would have given this an 8 too. Like, she probably would have, because I watched movies like this growing up. So like, it's,
Yeah.
if a movie doesn't have sand, it's not real. So yeah, my 12-year-old self probably would give this an 8. It's just been 8s all around, because I wouldn't mind watching this again. Because maybe if I watch it again with the conversation that I had with you guys, maybe I'll see it different and like her character, go in a little bit different with her.
I never said I liked her character.
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But I'm just saying that you guys gave me some things to think about. That's all. So maybe if like another viewing of this down the line, I might like change my mind and be like, okay, I feel for her character a little bit more. Because right now, I wanted them to kill her like twice, two. Like, it's like, Get her out here. She's bringing down what we're trying to do. Like, I really feel like a villain watching this. I was like, we got to kill all the people.
So John
Why?
Bernthal, when he's like, "You did this. It's your fault," you were like, "Yeah, you know."
I'm like,
You're right.
because she did. Dude told you not to go in.
And
If you would have never went in, he would have
He would
never
have never hit radar,
probably would have had sex with him, but he wouldn't have tried to. He wouldn't have known he was part of the cartel.
right?
Like,
Or you would have, and he wouldn't have known you were
he would
the
have known you or
investigator,
whatever.
right?
But still, but yeah,
No,
go
I'm
ahead,
with you.
we got a redemption.
We did for a whole bunch of Denis Villeneuve films, which is fine because you're yeah, I am too. He's one of my new favorite directors, without a doubt. He doesn't have a huge filmography, but that's fine. Some of the best directors only have some. Now, there's my one exception, Biggie. I think Arrival's just okay. And a lot of people disagree with me on that. Yeah, I think it's like a 6 or 7. It's not terrible. It's not
Rapper Young.
but
Rapper
it's
Young's got that one.
I wasn't. Yeah, that's the Alien film with Amy Adams. But I have a thing about Amy Adams, and I also wasn't that compelled with the alien aspect of it. So.
Actually, that's
Yeah.
negative.
Yeah.
Like Arrival.
Blade Runner 2049, you're going to skip me with a yes. But so I think that Lala has never seen Blade Runner. So we would need to do the two of those together because I think that would be great to see those back to back. No, as in no. Oh, no, as in you haven't seen it. I'm like, no. She's saying no. She will not watch Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Blade Runner is one of those movies that you've got to let it happen. If people stop halfway through and they're doing themselves a disservice because they don't let it unfold, and if you don't let it unfold, you're missing the point. So anyway, I don't think she'll be tortured. I think she will enjoy. Well, Blade Runner is one of those movies. Either you love it or you don't. Like, there's very few people that are like, it's okay. What was that?
If I gotta watch Han Solo and something else, I guess I will.
Han Solo. No, he's Decker. Come on, this is We're talking Decker here. Anyway, okay. My rating of Sicario, I'm gonna just go right along the same lines as all the movie things. It's a 9.5. Like, I want to give it a 10, but I just it's a 9.5. So by default, it's a 10, I guess. Yes, Jared Leto's in that movie, and that's okay. We'll let that go. He's the villain, so it works in that sense.
Right.
But yeah,
I like him as a video as a villain because he was a villain in Panic Room, and he was hilarious.
Oh yeah,
another Fincher film.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Dallas Buyers Club I actually never saw, so there's something to consider.
So
He was great in that. Yeah,
Listen,
that
Jared Leto is one of those actors that when he hits, like when the
yeah.
role is for him, it's for him. Okay, other stuff you might be like, all right, whatever he added to the story, but when it's for him, you're like, man, that boy can act.
He's this generation's Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah.
12 messages were deleted by the moderator. Oh, what? Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe you were commenting too often. Please don't leave. We don't want you to go. That's weird. I don't know why Stream Elements just booted you. Please hang out. It's fine. It's fine. We like you. The computer, the robot doesn't. It's fine.
Oh, weird.
That said, this has been episode number 39, the final episode of season 1 of The Real Study. We've put a whole year in the bag. Whoosh. I didn't think we would get there, but we did, and I'm excited. So look forward to next season. We will have more movies. We will have so much more interactive stuff. As you saw tonight, we're doing a little bit more in the way of describing and looking at different things. So we're going to try to add those elements in as we go. Other than that, I think since it's our last episode, we should rate somebody if they're available. Let's see who's available. Nobody's available.
Like Trump. Yeah, I guess not.
Nobody.
Or Jared Leto.
Nobody's.
Oh, probably.
Wait, did he say the word Trump?
Yeah, he said Trump.
That's
but
why.
It also deleted Jared Leto as torture.
Torture? That word might have gotten. That's weird. That's interesting. The word Trump is 100% banned in the chat, and that was for very specific reasons. So anyway, thank you, Peter Spider Parker Markerman. Thank you, Tyler, for stopping by. We're really glad you stopped by.
Thanks so much,
Tyler, also, who is also hopefully we'll get him on as a guest for next season. Will be.
Oh, Matt Damon's remarks on Hot Ones. I actually can see where he's coming from with because DVD sales were an important factor into like how much money a film made.
I agreed. That was a very kind of apt viewing from his, or a point that he made about DVDs.
Right. Yeah.
But Tyler does another. He's been doing screenplays and various things on his TikTok. I'm going to do a big shout out to him because he's amazing, and you guys should go follow him as well if you don't. Nobody for us to raid, so that's sad.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We'll just call it an evening.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for stopping by.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the chat. Great chat.
This was this was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we'll do more of this. Maybe another cinematography special for a different
Oh,
DP.
yeah.
You know, we'll find
Oh,
another
yeah.
DP to talk about. So
We could do this for
I
a
got
lot of
so
things.
many.
We could do like the director
Sure.
appreciation or
special
stuff like
effects, I think, would be a good one. We could do practical
Oh, that'd be
effects. So
that. Design, stuff like that.
costume and set design, both. Yes, absolutely. Mute scores, scripts. I mean, we can break it all down. In fact, we'll make sure to have Tyler on for a script episode since you guys can
Oh, that'd be sweet.
talk it up like crazy. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, anyway, thanks, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you
Thanks, guys.
later.
In what, September? No, October.
October, the first episode in October. Look for us. We'll be there.
So it's October.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.